Dámy a pánové, krásné dobré ráno. Já vás velice srdečně vítám v Evropském domě. A když se podívám na tento plný sál, tak mám neuvěřitelnou radost, že Evropský dům čím dál více ožívá po dvouleté pauze, že je opět místem setkávání tváří v tvář. A velice vám děkuji, že jste přišli v takovémto počtu. Jak víte, Evropský dům je sídlem zastoupení Evropské komise a kanceláře Evropského parlamentu, ale současně jsme otevřeni i jiným institucím, včetně těch našich sesterských evropských. A dnešní konferenci tedy organizuje společně zastoupení Evropské komise v České republice a kancelář skupiny Evropské investiční banky pro Českou republiku. Hlavním tématem dnešní konference je nový stěžejní program Evropské unie na podporu investic, InvestEU, který je financován z evropského rozpočtu a bude z převážné části realizován právě Evropskou investiční bankou. Dnes se seznámíte s nabídkou možností financování ze strany Evropské investiční banky, Evropského investičního fondu a také dalších podpůrných institucí. Dozvíte se o nových příležitostech, které program InvestEU přináší, stejně tak ale o příležitostech, které přináší další podpůrné nebo nové programy Evropské unie, v rámci nichž je poskytována návratná podpora. Program InvestEU je relativně nový. Dohoda o záruce mezi Evropskou komisí, Evropskou investiční bankou a Evropským investičním fondem byla podepsána asi před 3 týdny a program se právě nyní rozjíždí. A právě dnes se v Praze tady a teď koná první ze série konferencí, které postupně tento nový program představí v jednotlivých zemích Evropské unie. Struktura dnešního setkání je následující. Po úvodních slovech našich významných hostů budou následovat 3 tematické bloky, které se zaměří na možnost získání půjček z evropských programů ve veřejném, soukromém a finančním sektoru. Dámy a pánové, nyní mi již dovolte přivítat naše vzácné hosty, kteří vystoupí v úvodní části konference. Jsou jimi paní Liliana Pavlova, viceprezidentka Evropské investiční banky. Vítejte. Máme zde také pana Mariana Pěchu, náměstka ministra průmyslu a obchodu, který zde zastupuje pana ministra Síkelu, který je bohužel zdravotně indisponován. A později během dne se k nám připojí náš kolega z Evropské komise, pan Anton Giulio Marín, vedoucí oddělení pro implementaci InvestEU v Evropské komisi, generální ředitelství pro ekonomické a finanční záležitosti. Dámy a pánové, pro tuto chvíli z mé strany je to vše. Já vám přeji plodnou diskusi a již si dovolím předat slovo paní viceprezidentce Evropské investiční banky, paní Lilianě Pavlové.
Thank you very much, Dana. Good morning, dear ladies and gentlemen, dear Deputy Minister, dear colleagues, friend, dear Vice President Hudak. I'm extremely happy, as Dana said, to be really being here in person in Prague. This is definitely, it makes difference. We were all living for 2 years and having hybrid virtual meetings and gatherings, but it's as always much better if we have this opportunity to speak and to reach out and to have also more informal discussions. I'm glad also that we start our initiative of launching, as we call it, a roadshow to promote and to raise awareness about InvestEU. And the first event of the series is the one today in Prague. And from here, we will continue visiting and having the similar events in all countries to promote InvestEU and to present what are the opportunities, what are the plans, and how, and to give a good example of how InvestEU could support economic recovery, economic development, and growth. And I should say that InvestEU and the event of which we are co-organizing, thank you very much, Dana, and the whole team for this Team Europe approach, really applied and present here of having this event. But this is also an excellent example of our good and strong cooperation between the bank and the European Commission, since only in partnership and cooperation we can be able to successfully deliver on the high expectations, I should say, and the targets which are planned within the InvestEU. Unfortunately, the launch of just recently signed InvestEU agreement between the Commission and the European Investment Bank comes in a very difficult time for Europe and beyond. The devastating and terrible situation in Ukraine and the war, and the consequences of which are really damaging not only the European economy, but most important, unfortunately, losing lives. So, and here I would like to use the opportunity, first of all, to express our strong solidarity and support the Ukrainian people, Ukrainian government, and our support and our immediate response as part of the global EU response is already there, already in place. We have released the first emergency support and liquidity payments for Ukraine, but also we have prepared a specific package of support for all countries, not only impacted, but like Czech Republic hosting refugees, to provide as much as we can all necessary funding support, technical assistance and advisory as well, in order to overcome the consequences and to make all and to implement all possible measures needed to accommodate the really increasing number of refugees. So apart from economic recovery, which was at the exit of the COVID pandemic, which we were all facing, now we will have to really see and plan which are the measures to overcome and to support, as I said, the refugee inflow on one side, but on the other side, the other crisis which we are facing, and this is the energy crisis, and the necessary efforts, emergency, I should say, again, investments needed for diversification and for really limiting the dependence. And strategic, European strategic autonomy, European sovereignty is even more high on the agenda, high on the European agenda. So, and this is where we need to unite our efforts to find the best way to overcome. Because economic impact, energy supply, moving to also food production, jeopardizing really speed of the recovery of, and the economic growth. So a part of these questions, we should also not forget the climate change and climate mitigation, energy transition as part of the package. So now we are constrained with multiple crises, and we have to find the right instruments for this. And here I believe that InvestEU gives us an opportunity to be used also as a part of the solution, as part of the instruments which could and should be used in order to channel the right funding in the right moment. I should say that because of our financial firepower, because of our expertise, and also because we are the EU bank, we are the EU climate bank, we are the EU bank, cohesion bank, I do believe that there is an opportunity for us together with the government, and I'm glad that I had this 3 days visit meeting all ministers, deputy ministers, and representatives of the government and of the business in the country, really to understand better the needs of the economy, priorities of the different sectors, in order to make sure that we apply, as we say, more tailor-made approach in what is needed. As yesterday we had also our annual press conference, I would just want to use the opportunity to say that our support and our operations in Czech Republic are continuously growing. Last year, we provided almost 1.2 billion euro from the bank in support of the Czech economy, with main focus of supporting COVID recovery, supporting SMEs and mid-sized companies, continuously providing investments related to climate action, innovation, and of course, regional infrastructure. And we also signed the first green loan with Czech Republic last year with CEPS, which I hope is just the beginning of series of a lot of investments. And last but not least, this year we are initiating the investment scheme as part of the just transition mechanism, ensuring and supporting just and fair transitions with the special focus of the 3 regions in Czech Republic, the coal mining region eligible for this kind of support. We have been supporting, developing a strong pipeline of projects, which we hopefully to launch our support this year in order to continue the successful implementation and supporting transition of those regions. Apart from our investments related to just and fair transition, which are extremely important and priority ones, and also as Vice President of the bank in charge of cohesion policy investment, I'm really glad to say that last year we've managed and our board adopted our new cohesion strategy for the period 2021-2027. And the agreement was reached that 45% of our lending should be and will be dedicated to cohesion and convergence related investments. And also we have agreed to expand our eligibilities, especially for cohesion and for less developed regions, promoting diffusion of proven technologies in those regions where they are not available, providing more direct financing for our beneficiaries in support of cohesion and supporting the development of the economy. So this is where, in strong partnership with the governments, with the national governments, with local authorities, of course, business, we will have to now accelerate and identify which are the specific measures. But now coming back shortly to the topic of today's discussion, to the main topic of today's discussion, which is InvestEU. As I said, it's a very good opportunity for us to have the right instrument to mitigate this multiple crises, and the InvestEU is the right instrument of doing so. Designed as key pillar of the EU largest stimulus package for a COVID recovery, for building a greener, safer, more digital and resilient Europe. And it builds on a very successful investment plan for Europe, as we all know it better, like Juncker plan, which was managed by the bank, which was extremely successful, let's say, exercise, which we had supported European economy. Now, under one roof, we have the European Fund for Strategic Investments and 13 other EU financial instruments put all together under the title of InvestEU, which hopefully will make the funding more streamlined, more easier to access, more effective, as we have all the different instruments now under one roof and under the implementation within 4 policy windows, which are absolutely, of course, we are absolutely at the bank aligned with this policy and priority goals: sustainable infrastructure, research, innovation, digitalization, small and medium enterprises, and social investments in skills. Good morning to the European Commission representative as well. Thank you very much for joining us. As I just said, this is a good example, Mr. Marin, that how the Commission and the European Investment Bank are cooperating to support European economies. Apart from these 4 investment windows, which I mentioned, the investment plan has also a very strong climate focus. 30% of the investments financed by InvestEU should at least cover investments related to climate change, mitigation, adaptation, sustainability, which is also very, very important nowadays. So the European Investment Bank is key implementing partner of InvestEU. We are managing 75% of the overall financial package for this programming period. And we will deploy and implement the different financing schemes under the 4 investment windows for a variety of different products we have, like direct loans for corporates, for public sector counterparties, project finance, and public-private partnership. Here I can open the brackets. We have just yesterday signed our first advisory and assessment agreement with the government, with the Ministry of Transport, in supporting developing public-private partnership infrastructure framework to support real projects to be implemented in Czech Republic with the support of the public-private partnership experience, which we do have in the bank. as well as venture debt products for innovation, for innovative SMEs, supporting startups, portfolio guarantees, which we usually provide through our financial intermediaries, national promotional banks, and commercial banks operating in the market, as well as equity investments in funds. These are another equity type of funds, which we were also discussing with the Ministry of Industry and Trade. And I think we can replicate successful experience so far and continue implementing and promoting equity type of investments, which are much needed in the market we are here operating. Of course, InvestEU will focus, we will focus operations under InvestEU with projects, with promoters, with higher risk profile. This is very important, and if we compare to our average bank business, this will give us opportunity indeed to invest in much more riskier operations with the guarantees from InvestEU, and to complete the support with the next couple of years. Special focus on innovation. Special focus on innovation is really also something which will be an important element of our financing. And last but not least, I should say that crowding in private capital, because we do have liquidity on the markets, but really crowding in the private capital and mobilizing this private investment will be extremely important in order really to have this as a success story. So before concluding, just a few words. Apart from financing and different types of financing and different instruments which we have at our disposal, something else with which I believe our bank is very special and unique about is our advisory and our technical assistance, since we do have our very big in-house large team of experts in all sectors of economies, providing support for project preparation, project identification, project implementation, as well as preparing the right analysis, sector analysis, strategies, plans, and etc. As well as we are as well providing financial advisory support, which could be useful for our clients. So far, we will operating under the so-called European Advisory Hub. Now it is transformed within the new programming period, within the format of InvestEU, and now the new framework is called InvestEU Advisory Hub. But it is really the same team now really mobilizing to provide support, as I said, in project preparation, identification, capacity building, which is extremely important to support promoters and also financial intermediaries to have the right projects in place, support market development, market studies and analysis to make sure that we need to understand where the demand is and how we can provide the right support. So apart from especially working on InvestEU Advisory Hub within all 4 investment windows, our InvestEU advisory team will continue providing the right support and synergies within the so-called now old instruments like Elena, Jaspers, FICOMPASS. We will continue, of course, providing much needed support via Jaspers for project preparation, from Elena initiative for energy efficiency related investments, Urbis for urban development, supporting local authorities, circular city, circular economy, circular city center, our strong team, as we call it, EPEC, our PPP advisors, who will be providing support and helping establishing the right framework here in the country, and as well as the social outcome and social impact financing, which is also an important element of our financing. So here, just to conclude, you will hear later not only from the opening panel and political messages, but later in the different panels, specifically more information about our financing, about the financing scheme. I hope it will be extremely useful for you, informative, useful, and we will be happy to receive your feedback on what are the specificities, what still needs to be maybe addressed in order to make sure that InvestEU is really a success story, like we had the Juncker plan as a success story, But hopefully now with the variety of new instruments and funding, we will be able to address the multiple challenges, let's call it not only crisis, but also multiple challenges which we have of us, because every crisis also brings an opportunity. Let's use all these opportunities as much as possible in a positive way. Thank you very much for your attention.
This is obviously the one that works. Thank you very much, Vice President Pavlova, for this very comprehensive overview. And let's now have the voice of the government of the Czech Republic. And I give the floor to Deputy Minister Marian Pěcha.
Thank you very much. Since as I look through the room, I understand that everyone understands English, so I will continue in English because I think it's much easier to connect than to answer the possible questions, and translations always delay the thing. Even though I have prepared a diplomatic speech for my minister, which is and he's ill. So now I have to choose from a diplomatic speech to something what I really want to say in cooperation with the EIB. And the English is rather good here, because if I say something even a little bit stronger, I can always say that it's in English. It sounds harsh, but in Czech it's more mild, it's very friendly, and so on. Because as I think about cooperation with EIB, and I have been in the ministry for quite a long time, since 2007, and as I started to work there, and they introduced to me also the financial instruments, the management of the ministry was always saying, EIB is very expensive. We can do it much better and much cheaper. That was, I think, till 2015, when really we understood that the cooperation is good, and we have launched the first programs. I don't want to say that our financial products from 2007 to 2015 were not good from the point of view of Czech Moravian, or now the National Development Bank. But with the EIB, we can do much bigger progress. That's what we have learned from 2015 to 2023 till now, as we launched the guarantee programs with National Development Bank for support of SMEs. 1.8 billion of loans to SMEs were provided. We also launched the startup private equity fund with the EIB, Nation One and Lighthouse, which are now success in Czech. But as I look through the room again, I think the biggest progress generally was made in last 2 years. Because of COVID, maybe this room was empty. We didn't have much chance to meet in person, and I'm very happy that we can do it now. And we can discuss and network and so on. But also, I always like to look back and see that the COVID taught us well on digitalization, on fast cooperation, coming with very fast and effective measures. For me, as looking at the financial instruments again, it was hard during the COVID to prepare all the financial instruments coming up. I remember it's even now. Minister Havlicek called me and said, "You have like 2-3 hours to prepare the scheme. Actually, the COVID one in the Czech Republic was like that we said, okay, there's an epidemic coming, and it will probably hurt some SMEs because they will need to close for a little bit with the quarantines and whatsoever. So we will prepare a loan program, COVID-1, with the National Development Bank. As we have prepared it, and this program was going to governments, the whole Czech Republic was closed. And we knew if we launch this program, it will be empty in a day, and it was. So actually, improving the program, we already started to work on COVID-2. And we knew that the National Development Bank, Czech Moravian, cannot do it alone. So we started to cooperate with commercial financial institutions, commercial banks, and we provided guarantees. Looking back at those guarantees, it was fast, it helped a lot, but in a way that bank completely stopped the financing of the SMEs in the period that no one knew how the economy will continue. I'm not sure if the support was either aiming at the SMEs or it was aiming at the banks. So that was even tougher discussion in preparation of COVID-3. The framework for 150 billion of the Czech crowns, where the heads of the Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Industry were negotiating 2 weeks, 3 weeks straight on the level of deputy minister, ministers. We finally did it. I think that was the measure which really was adequate to the crisis. But I was very happy, not because, well, I was happy that the framework COVID-3 was approved, but I was also very, very happy that we have opened the discussion with the commercial banks about the definition of SMEs, that actually they can do what the government does. They can take the definition of the SMEs and say, this is the SME, so it has better conditions. This is a big company. We have evaluated it, and it has different criteria, because that's, as the MasterCard says, is priceless. Because now we know the commercial banks know they can do it. They can do it for EIB, but they never wanted to do it for the government, because in the Czech Republic, it's an issue. It's an issue because we are very strict in these conditions. The Czechs are very strict. Not the Czechs, but the Czechs for the Czechs are strict. And I'm very happy that we have moved forward in that, because as the situation in our economy progresses, I think the Tetris is faster and faster, because what happened in COVID, and now with the Ukraine and another temporary framework, as we had the COVID temporary framework, and now we have the framework for Ukraine, will get even faster and faster, and more bricks will fall down. Why I'm talking about the Tetris, because those bricks falling down are the money coming to support the economy. And when I go to sleep, I look at it. I look at it that way, that I see the blocks falling down, and I try to put them in a right space, because just look at the amount of money coming from the Recovery Resilience Funds. That's 179 billion going to the economy. We have new programming periods now in preparation. OPETAC single for the entrepreneurs is around 80 billion of the Czech crowns, and I think more and more money will flow. And it's good that the EU has the frameworks for state aid, changes the frameworks for the state aid because of the crisis, but maybe we could look at the genesis of the state aid rules themselves, because as we have discussed yesterday during the dinner, and you said, because when you were preparing the Invest EU, dealing with the DG competition, you got 2,549 comments, and the document was also ready. And this is the same with us. And the situation needs to be changed just from the genesis of the state aid rules, not coming with another frameworks and another frameworks and so on. But the idea, I don't want to talk about the state aid anymore, because then I get a little bit anxious. I will go back to the financial institution and look forward optimistically, because what we have learned in COVID 1, COVID 2, COVID 3 is good, that we can prepare schemes helpful for our economy. Now I know that with cooperation with EIB, we can support the startups and the private equity funds. And even though I understand that some products of EIB are not cheap, but they are worth it, I'm very willing to open the discussion on the basis of our operational program, where I can put in competition, because it's a competitiveness framework, National Development Bank and EIB, and see who can negotiate it better with the private financial institutions. And that's my job for next period. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Deputy Minister, and thank you also for not being that diplomatic. Now, I will give the floor to our colleague from the European Commission, DG ECFIN, Mr. Anton Julian Marin, the head of unit for the implementation of the InvestEU.
Many thanks. I do believe there is a presentation that can go on the screen. And thanks again to Vice President Pavlova and the Deputy for the nice word. I've been asked to guide through as short as possible in present the new program, the InvestEU. I'm leading myself a team, quite committed team of colleagues that are negotiating guarantee agreements, actually, and that's why we have been through quite a bumpy story with the EIB to get there. Now we are in the implementation, and I said that, of course, the rewarding part of my job is the implementation. If we can move to the first slide, please. Probably I need to do myself. That one step back. I mean, there is indeed a successful story. We call it legacy, but actually it's a very good legacy we have of cooperation with the European Investment Bank, and this is, of course, the European Fund for Strategic Investment, the so-called Juncker Plan. We had a target, 500 billion, and we are being achieved thanks to the European Investment Bank. That was our partner on this. I will not, of course, go into all these figures that are appearing and popping up on this slide, but I think it's quite telling. I think there is even an estimate on outputs, which I would say is even more telling than the billions that we can run into the machine. That is this impact on GDP. And finally, even more, that's the social impact of our program, is the millions of extra job or additional job that the EFSI has been able to create over a number of years. Quite limited, I would say, and in projection. So a little zoom on what has been done for the Czech Republic, of course. 13 approved projects in the area of infrastructure innovation. Again, when we speak about concrete and solid, tangible project, this is the most telling, a nice story we have. And again, we have here a number of schemes that has been implemented for small and medium enterprises, which I think the deputy minister were quite also emphasizing are quite important in the Czech Republic. So this is the legacy. The legacy was very much, or the European Fund for Strategic Investment was very much about volume, impact on the economy, volume, output. I think that was the objective, and that was achieved. Moving to the InvestEU, there were a long discussion with the co-legislator, the Parliament, the Council, that guide the Commission in designing program, and the discussion led to a program which is more policy-driven. At the time, the idea was, well, there is a double transition, digital, green transition. Our program needs to be policy-driven. They need to take more risk. They need to crowd in private finance. That's also one objective. And that led to the design of the new program. There is also an additional aspect which linked to the point that the deputy minister mentioned. We want to open to more competitive environment in the area of partnership with the banks. While the European Investment Bank remain our key partner is the European Bank, we are opening the InvestEU also to other partners. So other national promotional bank can become implementing partner and get access directly to the guarantee, other than be intermediate to the EIB, for example, the European Bank. So the allocation that we got in terms of budgetary guarantee is 26 billion. And the objective is to mobilize 370 billion over the 7 years, of course. Again, coming to the policy objective, we have 4 windows, and each window have an allocation. We have a sustainable infrastructure window. We have an SME window, which is dedicated to intermediate product for SME. And of course, we have the research, innovation, digitalization, which is the key for the digital transition as well, alongside the green transition. And then quite new, although small in size, but quite important in terms of policy impact, we have a social investment and skill, which with the present situation of migration that we are facing, in particular in this country, I think is becoming even more important. And the structure of the program is along 3 pillars. So we have, of course, a fund, which is the more, of course, visible because this is about the volumes. And but we also have additional 2 pillars, which is equally important because they build up the pipeline of project. As been mentioned by the Vice President Pavlova, I mean, the liquidity in the market is there. I mean, of course, we need to catalyze this liquidity, but we also need to have good project, good pipeline. The EIB is functional to prepare good project, but we, in some cases, need advisory for the project promoter and sponsor. This is the way the program is structured again. So there is a guarantee that comes from the European Investment, from the Commission, of course, to the European Investment Bank, the European Investment Fund, which is part of the European group, a European Investment Bank group. And then we have other implementing partners like EBRD or National Promotional Bank, like, for example, the Czech Republic National Promotional Bank might become an implementing partner of the InvestEU. Of course, those work either in direct transactions, or they finance projects, or they go through intermediation. They go through commercial bank, which are a quite large spectrum, which a commercial bank, but actually in the social area, we can go even microfinance, so we can go even social financial institution. And those will, of course, finance projects or corporate or small company, SME or innovative SME. There is a possibility to beef up the envelope. Member states which are interested to use their own structural funds or the envelope they have under the RRF, the recovery plan, they can, of course, use the InvestEU as a vehicle, because the InvestEU have a number of financial products which has been negotiated for long, they are ready. So the administrative costs for the member state should be lower. They can use existing vehicle and channel their budget through InvestEU. Of course, whatever they are channeling through the InvestEU remain in terms of investment within the member state which has contributed. That's the idea of the member state compartment, which a number of member states are already testing. We have in discussion and close to sign with Romania. We have also Bulgaria, we have Greece, we have many member states which are now aiming at contributing and use this vehicle rather than developing their own instrument. This is the idea of the member state compartment. So I would say point on the advantage that we have in terms of administration, which is reduced in terms of ready-to-go financial product already in the market. The EIB has many. And so I think is an interesting and clever way to channel money in a quicker way. As I say, a financial product can be, there is also the possibility, although this is to be explored, that a member states think that the menu that they have in terms of financial products from the EIB, for example, is not sufficient. They want to go into a specific area of eligibility, and therefore they can even use the InvestEU to develop their own product with its own specificity. That's also possible. The other advantage, of course, is in terms of financing. That's why the member state contributes. They can also make use of the union guarantee. So there is also an effect of multiplier. So there is a financial interest and administrative interest to go into this in this possibility. So coming to the menu, I mean, this is the menu that I mean, once you will discuss with the EIB, of course, much more in details, they will come to you and explain. This is what we have and what the European Investment Bank so far offered, thanks to a guarantee agreement that has been signed a month ago. So we have what we call general products. So in general, those general products on the side of the European Investment Bank are debt type. We also have so-called equity type, actually is venture debt, still direct on transaction. And these products are they have, of course, as I say, policy prioritization. So they can serve sustainable infrastructure. They can serve research, innovation, digitalization. They can also be used for social infrastructure, for example, that you have debt that go for building school and hospital. When we go to social infrastructure, we can even go to sub-sovereign. Of course, the EIB do not necessarily support directly the government using InvestEU, but sub-sovereign, that's possible. And all the criteria and eligibility are already defined in the guarantee agreement. So the menu is quite detailed. On the top of it, this is a novelty that has been tested with the European Investment Bank in the last 4 or 5 years. So a novelty in the sense that is a novelty, but is already well tested. And these are the so-called thematic products. Thematic products are for very well-defined area where the policy value is much higher, notably in green and digital, I would say, but also circular economy, for example. And the promoter, the final recipient, have a risk profile which is very, very, very challenging for the bank. I would say that the bank could not do such financing without the guarantee backing their financing. That's why we call it quasi-equity in terms of risk, although it's still debt. And again, we have a similar policy priority. We even have thematic which on the area of research and innovation go for in the area of health. And that's also quite challenging. Again, those products exist. They are in the markets. It's quite a number of years, but now they can be scaled up. So this is what actually the EIB can do. Now going to the other side of the group, the European, the EIF. The EIF, of course, only work on intermediation. There is no direct financing. They are operating, again, under all windows. They even have a menu which is a bit more detailed in terms of guarantees. So basically, there are two groups of products, guarantee and equity. So in terms of guarantee, you see by the title of the product that they are quite specific. We have, for example, a guarantee for sustainable SME, which is quite new. But we even have guarantee for which go for social, microfinance, social and skill guarantee. Can be capped and uncapped. So normally these two possibilities are offered to financial intermediary. Coming to equity, of course, there is a more large product we have in the market since, again, quite a number of years. Of course, this is one of the specialization of the European Investment Bank Group, is the infrastructure equity. But then we also have equity product which go for smaller counterparts. This is all managed by the EIF. How EIF is managing this product? Actually, EIF is preparing call for proposal for intermediate or for fund. In case of equity, of course, these are the intermediate are fund managers. The call for expression of interest are being ready in the coming days and will be published in the website of the EIF. So commercial bank or fund manager dealing with both venture capital equity or infra equity, or commercial bank interested into getting the counter guarantee from the EIF, they will apply to those goals. So there is an approval process to be sure that all policy, all project and all operation that we are supporting have an additionality and address market failure. There is a first level of policy check. So is the commission determining if there is an alignment in terms of policy. And then there is, and that's most important, in the investment committee, which is independent from the commission. So it ensures that there is an extra review and scrutiny of any operation in terms of additionality, market failure. And that is made by a panel of experts which are independent from the commission and independent, of course, from the EIB or other implementing part. I were referring to two main policy priorities. One is greening, of course. We have a quite important target in terms of volume of operation. At least 30% need to go to climate change. Under the sustainable infrastructure window, which is 40% of the overall envelope, 60% need to go for climate and environment. Now, this is the objective. Of course, we need to have a system to track against this objective. There is two options. We can use the so-called real marker-based approach. This is a simpler system that has been used also in the past by the Commission. We can use even a more sophisticated system, which has been now set by the Commission again, and the European Investment Bank is more aligned with, is a system based on the taxonomy, the green taxonomy. There will be a report, of course, and the report will, of course, is of very much of interest of our co-legislator. The Parliament will be very vigilant about this objective. We also have an additional layer of screening, and this is more broad than just the climate change, which is a term of volume of operation against the target, is a sustainable proofing. And sustainable proofing is also to ensure that projects do not harm, of course, other environment than the climate. Doing a project in climate, you risk to harm environments. So there is a sustainable proofing which ensure this and advise on mitigation measures to, of course, mitigate such risk. And so it's not only about climate, it's also about environment. It's particularly important, for example, for infrastructure. And also is important for adaptation to climate change. It's not only about the impact of the project on the CO2, of course, emission, but it's also the impact of climate into the project that we need to check. So we need to have a resilient project, and this is the methodology that we have put in place. The European Investment Bank is actually a leader in this kind of methodology. They have developed themselves a methodology, and we are building basically on the European Investment Bank methodology. Again, well-tested methodology, well experienced, and there is no, there is capacity also to advise on it. As I say, I also refer to other. So 75% of the envelope is allocated to the European Investment Bank Group. 25% of the envelope in terms of guarantee will be used for other partners. So we have been through for the other partners than the EIB to a call for a manifestation of interest. We got now quite a large number of implementing partners, which are national promotional bank or international financial institutions like EBRD, SEB, and the Nordic Investment Bank, for example. So those banks has applied, and now we are in the process of negotiating with them the contract guarantee agreement, which will allow them also to implement 25% of the envelope. There was also a call for manifestation of interest for advisory. So there were also envelopes that has been that will be negotiated with the other partner than the EIB for deploying advisory. Coming to the advisory, I say this is the second pillar of the InvestEU. Again, as concerned the EIB, this is already up and running, it's being negotiated. So the EIB will have access to a large envelope for advisory. The Vice President Pavlova referred to initiative of success like EPEC like EPEC or like other initiative in terms of advisory that has been deployed in the past years. Now, all these initiatives will, of course, keep their label because they are in the market very well acknowledged. but they will be managed in a way, or administrative, they will be managed in more under one umbrella, and the one umbrella will be the advisory hub. And this, of course, help also in a cross-fertilization. So sometimes one project, one sponsor need advisory for different initiatives, like, for example, EPIC and Jasper. And this is, of course, this kind of coordination is happen under this umbrella. I will, again, not go through all these detail. I think the slide will be distributed. But as you say, the idea of the advisory is to bring under one only coordination umbrella with the European Investment Bank, in particular, all those initiatives that they are available already in the market in the past. How it works, there is a request, of course, from a recipient, can be a project promoter, a sponsor, or of even an institution, which can be a financial institution, to go through this advisory. Then there will be a coordination system, and then, of course, the advisory will be channeled directly to the recipient. Final slide is about the InvestU portal. This is a system that was already existing under the European Fund for Strategic Investment. Is a system which is independent, actually, from the institution as such. Actually, is a portal where the interested project promoter, they can bring their idea into a portal, and this will be visible for investors. And out of this system, project promoter were able to attract investment in project which were at the level of idea, well-conceived idea, and not necessarily through our partner. Basically, the portal doesn't necessarily link to the financing of the European Investment Bank. It can be an investor, a private investor, which is interested in the idea, I want to invest, and this is the platform to link with. I think this leads to the end of the presentation. And I don't know how it's organized, if you have time for questions, or we can move to the next.
We do have time for questions, so any questions from the audience? Well, we will definitely go on into further details in the following blocks of the day. So I would like to thank you, Anton, Giulio, for your presentation. I would like to very much thank Vice President Pavlova, Deputy Minister Piecha for their speeches and information they shared with us today. And this is actually the end of the first block. And we will now move to more thematic blocks. And the next one is starting in 5 minutes.
So good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you again for being here. I'm happy to welcome you to the panel dedicated to corporate lending and finance in general. So we very much welcome the introductory words of the Commission on InvestEU, and it's very welcome to know exactly the framework, but now we will really go deeper into the product that the EIB is proposing to their clients. So for the corporate panel, it will be about direct lending and direct financing to clients, so not intermediated financing. That will be later with the financial intermediaries. So I'm happy to welcome here Anders Reesberg. Anders is the head of division of corporate financing in Central Europe. François Godet here, who is the head of unit for impact thematic venture debt, a product that has been introduced also by the Commission. Maximo Almodovar, who is joining online. He's a loan officer in charge of venture debt for some other types of sector, ICT, Industry 4.0. And Vincent Mansour, who is loan officer for project finance and PPP. So I will already start with Anders. Anders, so you are the head of the corporate division. What type of product do you offer to your clients, and what are the main benefits? Can you elaborate on that?
Thank you, Natalie. So we help our clients finance investments in innovation, digitalization, climate change, mid caps and large caps. We do so by extending senior loans, secured, unsecured loans. Normally our loans will not be less than 25 million. There are exceptions if there are particular priorities or the bank has particular added value. This is a rather large amount of a loan for smaller mid caps, perhaps. But what we do is we will aggregate capital expenditures and operational expenditures related to R&D over a period of 3 to 5 years to arrive at an amount that we can work with. And by all means, for smaller amounts than those 25 millions, we use financial intermediaries. So it's not that the EIB can only do loans of 25 million. In respect of tenors, for example, those are more favorable than you would normally find from commercial banks in the market. For industrial projects, perhaps 8 to 12 years. For infrastructure projects, up to 20 years. Our tenors of our loans are matched to the economic lives of the underlying assets that we are financing. Pricing may be interesting to our clients. We're a AAA institution. We raise funds on capital markets at beneficial terms, and we pass that on to our clients. Another element is the risk pricing. So how do we price the risk of a project and a counterpart? And there our methodologies are aligned with what's available on the markets. We price risk more or less the same that commercial banks would do. However, in terms of fees, we are more competitive than commercial banks. Commercial banks tend to make quite a bit of revenue on the back of fees, whereas we, as a non-profit institution, we took fees to cover our costs. So this would be appraisal fee and a commitment fee. Another thing that I can add as something that we offer, and it's been said again and again today, we provide advisory services. We have a big pool of engineers and economists as part of the EIB. And these people are available to provide services and expertise to clients. This is much appreciated often, that we have people that actually understand the technologies and also the markets that our clients are in. We can also provide consultancies if a company wants a financial tool. Companies who are today heavily invested in fossil fuels, we can help them with their decarbonization strategies. We like to think of ourselves today as a bank not only providing lending, but lending, blending, and advisory. So this is in our toolbox.
Thank you, Anders. So indeed, I think that the EIB, one of the strengths of the EIB is really to provide an integrated offer, and that is very welcome to highlight with our advisory services, including in the InvestEU. Something that is important is that the pricing for corporate clients and for the private sector is being reviewed, and there will be higher ceiling for free of charge advisory. So this should be noted, and there might be also additional initiative there that will come. And another important thing is the tenors and fees are quite competitive, because we've heard with prior that maybe EIB is not so competitive. I don't think it's the case. I really think that we have really strength, including for our senior debt. On that, is there anything else you would like to add on, how you would like to better answer the market? I mean, in particular, with regard to the specificities of the Czech Republic, the smaller companies, for instance.
Well, first I can say that, I mean, we are an institution set up to add value, to be countercyclical. So if it was the financial crisis 2008 or COVID, or now with Ukraine, we are a bank that weathers crises, and we are a good partner for clients. With InvestEU, our cooperation with the European Commission it allows us to target smaller mid caps than we would normally be able to do. And this is particularly useful in cohesion regions, of which in the Czech Republic, we have such regions. I mean, it was said earlier today that InvestEU is actually, it's not a new instrument, but it's a sequel to what we called FC. So we have a track record of lending to smaller companies in the region in various sectors where risks are higher than the EIB would normally be able to do without the support of InvestEU.
Thank you very much, Anders. And it's good that you highlighted as well the cohesion aspect, because InvestEU is also the pillar 2 of the Just Transition Mechanism, which should be noted, and that will be in particular in support of coal regions in transition for the Czech Republic. Now that we have gone through the more senior loan offer, we have highlighted that we are also taking more risk. So by addressing financing to mid-caps, but also through our venture debt product. I will ask a question to Maximo. So InvestEU enables us to increase significantly our risk appetite, and there our flagship initiative is the venture debt product. Could you tell us more about this product and how it has been developed and what are the features?
Well, hi, good morning. First of all, I hope you can hear me well, because okay, perfect. Well, thank you very much for the question. And indeed, InvestEU is quite fundamental for our product, our venture debt product. Indeed, once one takes a look at how it was originated, this product, it was thanks to the support of the Commission and under the umbrella of the European Fund for Sustainable Investments, EFSI. And back in 2016, when we created this product, we saw that there was a market gap in Europe for venture debt. It was a newly developed product that needed a bit more action and more activity in Europe to be developed. And when we created, the idea was to use this product to finance really EU innovation leaders and make sure that in Europe we can have lead companies that receive appropriate financing for innovation, for keeping truly European leaders of innovation in different sectors. Since 2016, the product Venture Debt became our flagship product for innovation and for quasi-equity, because we sit between normal debt, commercial debt, and venture capital financing. And we have been constantly deploying the product with the help of the Commission, but also with the help of member states through different programs. Initially, we had the European Growth Financing Facility, or EGFF, under EFSI. We also have had thematic facilities under Innofin, under Connecting Europe facility. And most recently, with the COVID-19 pandemic, we also developed a program with the support of member states under the Pan-European Guarantee Fund to be able to continue deploying venture debt to European leaders of innovation and financing companies that are at a growth stage. That's a bit history, which I think it's important to know, and then just a bit of a nutshell of the product. What I was mentioning, it sits a bit between what companies can find normally in venture capital and commercial lending. Our product basically provides a loan that has an equity upside attached, so it's not only interest but also an equity component that give us like an equity kicker to be able to adequately represent the risks that we are taking, because indeed we are taking higher risk than usual. And what we provide here is basically long-term, non-dilutive, patient capital, which it's seen as quite relevant and quite important for the companies that we interact with. And since 2016 has been seen as a pretty good complement to venture capital and other offers for companies at the stage that we look at. I would say that the more information about the product, you can look at it on the website of the EIB Venture Debt and the product. But just as a summary of how successful we have been since 2016, I would like to point out that since then we have deployed more than 3 billion in more than 150 companies all around Europe. We have supported a lot of highly skilled jobs, around 26,000 in highly skilled jobs in areas of innovation, in R&D. So really well paid and well with good future jobs. And just to mention that we not only work in the sector that I work for, which is software, ICT, and industry, but we have some three, let's say, verticals. On one side, we work with companies that are in the software, ICT, and what we call Industry 4.0. That's the team that I'm part of. We also have a team that looks at companies that are in the sector of life sciences and biotech. And in here, for example, you will have very good examples of venture debt deals that we have done in the sector, like, for example, BioNTech. And during COVID-19, this team has been quite active, and its activity has been quite well received and quite substantially increased. And also we have thematics and more green sectors where you have energy efficiency, mobility, circular economy, and where particularly Francois, that you have it there, it can talk a little bit more about how it is. And that's a bit in a nutshell how venture debt has been created and how it has worked so far, and what is it exactly. So
thank you, Maximo. And that was a good introduction for Francois. Francois, now I will ask you to maybe get into more details about your thematic products, in particular, yeah, the sector, the eligibility that you're applying, maybe also compared to what is proposed for the other sectors. And additionally, if you limit yourself to venture debt, or if there are other ways of financing that you can propose.
Thank you, Natalie. Indeed, our active product, Action for Climate Thematic Impact Finance, is a product or a program that is deployed on projects that have a high policy impact. It is a subset of the venture debt that we've discussed just now, but with more, policy focus. And the areas that we focus on are energy, so the themes of renewable storage and alternative sources, mobility, smart mobility, again in relation to alternative fuels, alternative mobile solutions, circular economy, bioeconomy, decarbonization of heavy industry, and also blue economy. But these sectors, what we focus on is the emergence of disruptive technologies. So what our program does is really to support, once a technology has done a certain level of evolution and now needs to be demonstrated to the market, needs to be industrialized, at a point where venture capitalists have invested in the development, but now there's a need for high capital injection to bring the company to the next step to the market. Often does not have revenues yet, but it has a product that needs to be demonstrated to the market. So this is the distinction a little bit between the general venture debt product and our active product. It's one about risks. We are catering risks in relation to the technology, the feedstock when we are in circular economy, and also the market. But active deploys itself through a venture debt structure, but in certain cases, we also deploy more as a ring-fence project finance, structured finance structure. So we have the capacity to play on different products. The goal is, and the focus is definitely on the policy relevance and the risk that is associated with the project. And therefore, we're more upstream of investments. In a nutshell, that's where we position ourselves.
Yeah, thank you, Francois. And I think it would be good also maybe to go through some examples, because what is also interesting is that there is also some fluidity between the product that we can deliver. So between the venture debt product and also the senior debt that we can deliver. And I know that we have a couple of examples like that. Could you maybe explain it to us?
Yes, so I'll use an example that is quite well known in the market in the development of the battery industry. Europe wanted to achieve a certain level of independency on its battery supply chain, a market that was not existent in Europe a few years back. So typically our product, Active, would look at a battery developer manufacturer in its initial phase in order to enter the market. Typically, these companies need to have a demo line that produces, humble quantities of their product, but that is a required step in order to enter their market, to get the offtakes they will need from the auto manufacturer. So it's a riskier deployment because at that point you are unsure if they will succeed in their deployment. So that's typically where we would intervene. And once that deployment is done, they have their demo line, they start producing, and then they can move to the full-scale gigafactory, which is a typical case where our colleagues in the bank, when our riskier intervention has been successful, then that company will graduate into different parts of lending of the bank. So that's a typical example. Another example is we were the team or the product that deployed for financing the first offshore floating wind farm off the coast of Portugal. Now, when we look back at the market in renewable energy and wind particularly, now doing onshore or short offshore wind is the run of the mill, and the market has moved in. But if you look at offshore floating, there's a technological risk in its initial deployment, and our role was to finance this first demonstrator so that the banks and the other actors, the promoters of renewable energy, could see one working. And now we are seeing in the market, commercial bank, along with EIB, more secured product moving into the market and scaling it up. So our Active product is not a scaling product. It's a risk initiator, demonstrator to bring to market disruptive technologies.
Yeah, thank you, Francois. I also think that, so one interesting example was obviously Northvolt, because the EIB financed Northvolt. I think this is also very much related to the energy sector, because if we talk about mobility, for instance, I think we can also go a little bit further down the line with more the roll-up of the technology. But this is very interesting to know, to what extent we can really indeed take risks. I will now turn to Maximo. To dig a little bit more into your own sectors, in particular ICT and Industry 4.0. This sector, they are particularly in tune with the tech economy. And I would like you to explain a little bit more to our participants your selection criteria and what you would expect from a company that would apply for our venture debt product.
Well, thank you, Natalie. Actually, that's a very common question that we get whenever we get the first contact with the startups or the small companies that we work with. Normally, we always have a first interaction where they ask this question, and usually the answer is similar to what I'm gonna say right now. So I would like to start by saying that typically we look at companies in here that are relatively small, SMEs or small mid caps that are in a stage of growth that it's related to the series of financing that it's more or less between a Series A and a Series C. Ideally, after a Series B, when we see certain growth of the company, certain growth of the revenues, Normally, the companies that are in this stage, they might need some extra nudge, some extra capital to be able to reach a substantial growth or even like a positive turnover. So normally our product fits very well there because it provides some extra financing for maybe like bridging the financing between the investment rounds, or maybe looking to scale up from a pilot phase to a mass production. That's also one of the typical cases that we finance with our product. So that's a bit on what's the stage of the company and how we look at it. Then in terms of what we finance, we are, as I was saying before, very innovation and R&D driven. So what we look at is at the investment plans of the companies, particularly with a focus on research and development, jobs that are created in terms of research and development, or investments that they are doing for research and development. And we look at these ones as the available financing that we will be able to cover, or the available needs of financing that we will be able to cover. These expenses, of course, they must be located within Europe, and they would define what we call the sort of project, or what we call investment plan. This will be exactly what we contribute for the development of the company. And then in terms of more qualitative information, we normally look at companies that they have a sustainable business model with a sound growth trajectory, because in the end, what we are providing with venture debt is a loan with an equity component. So there's still the need to repay a loan. So we look at the companies and we look at the proposition and the market advantages, the barriers, and how they can defend their position in the market or in the product that they are selling, etc. And finally, well, one of the last things that we look at, and that it's a bit like a consequence of all these other criteria that we have looked at, it's to see at the management, of course, that needs to be fully dedicated, fully professional, and they need to have a well-established corporate governance, which in most of the cases it's given by the fact that they have existing investors in the company, normally professional investors like venture capital funds or family businesses that are like really involved in the day-to-day business of the company, and they are sitting in the board and driving a bit the company day-to-day activities. So overall, that's a bit the criteria in very general terms that we look at. I would like to point out that normally many companies wonder, okay, if I qualify, how much we could get, and we have a ticket size that it's of course bigger than venture capital, but can be lower than typical commercial lending. We start at around 7.5 million, and we could go up to 50 million in some cases. And normally, as I was saying before, we look at the investment plan of the company, what the next years of expenditures, especially in R&D, will look like. And we would cover 50% of those, and more or less with that, and looking at other parts of the company, of the financials, we kind of assess what final offer we can give in terms of ticket size. And as usual, as we always say, for us, it's very important to have market visibility, so that not only the company knows us, but also that some of the investors might know us. And over the years, we have developed this market visibility, and most of the investors that know venture debt in Europe, they know us quite well, and they sometimes advise the companies. But we always encourage companies to reach us directly, because either way, either through a direct contact with us or through an indirect contact with us, through an investor or an advisor or even some of our officials that are working in the field, we always have to get a preliminary assessment and initial interaction with the company and assess better whether if they qualify and what can we offer to support their innovation.
Thank you, Maximo. Now I will turn to Vincent, because we will also discuss project finance, which is another way of delivering projects to the private sector. Vincent, I would like to ask you what type of financing in general do we propose for project finance types of project, and which sector we generally support? I would be interested also to know if there are some specific features or constraints that we have and that we are investigating more.
Hi, Nathalie. Good morning, all. I hope you can see and hear me well.
Yes, yes, yes.
Perfect. So yeah, first, very quickly, when we speak about, when we say project finance, we are speaking about the financing of long-term projects, assets, or infrastructure on a non or very limited recourse basis. And the repayment of the debt is possible through the cash flows which will be generated by this project. So traditionally, project finance is used in a lot of different sectors. At EIB, a large part of our activity, of course, is dedicated to climate. We said it in the introduction. So we finance, for example, renewable energy assets, wind, onshore wind, offshore wind, PV, of course. We are also financing energy efficiency projects. But we also have quite a strong experience in the transport sector, financing road and highways, financing rail projects. It could be rail infrastructure, but also rolling stock. We are looking into urban transport as well. We have also a lot of projects in the fields of education and social infrastructure, as for example, social housing, schools, and
I think that we have a technical issue. So we will wait until we get better access to Vincent, and then maybe I will move to Anders quickly. We were talking about green project, our support to climate action in general. InvestEU is particularly focusing on the green transition, and how the EIB expertise can be instrumental there in helping our clients.
Yes, you are right, Nathalie. Since last year, we have become a climate bank. We no longer finance fossil fuel projects involving fossil fuel. We've doubled down on energy efficiency in industrial processes, renewable energy, also in the transport sector, rolling out electrical vehicles or rail-bound transport. So we have new policies, we have staff with dedicated expertise in the green sector. I was recently sitting down with actually a couple of clients, and with this crisis that we have in the energy sector and prices going up, several clients are thinking about generating their own energy through solar panels on rooftops or industrial estates. And they were asking us for advice on, what technologies, possibilities of storage, etc. And I was happy to be able to refer questions back to people, engineers who know about these things. we are developing new products. Actually, I was mentioning we're countercyclical, and I mean, in this current crisis where the EU is trying to wean itself of gas, developing, supporting renewable energies, we're looking at new products and what we can do to support this. It's obviously something that's acutely necessary. I mentioned advisory services before as well. Yeah, we can provide consultants for companies who want energy audits or similar.
Thank you, Anders. And maybe another thing that we can highlight is the fact that there can be a green label attached to our loans, because we have this expertise in assessing projects and from a climate action point of view. And this is a well-recognized label, so this can also be interesting. Now
I can just add there that, yeah, we indeed, I mean, we do green loans. We can also participate in green bonds with the technical capacity we have. I mean, it's a quality stamp that's acknowledged in the market, and it can be attractive to clients to have the EIB participate and provide that stamp of quality.
Thank you, Anders. I see that Vincent is back. Welcome back, Vincent.
Yes, I'm very sorry for this. I lost the connection. I hope it will stay stable now.
So maybe you want to continue to take again where you stopped.
Of course. I don't know exactly where you lost me. I think
you were highlighting the different sectors actually, and you were focusing at that time on social housing.
Okay. So yes, this was to give a little bit of an overview of the projects we can finance on a project finance basis. What I also wanted to highlight is that we are keen to look into innovative structures and industrial project finance. Francois mentioned Northvolt. I think it's a very good example of a project which received initial support from the bank for its demo line, and which is then where the further development of the project is financed by our team on a project finance basis, where the capital requirements are of course bigger, and where we have a larger financing also with other funders. And this can surely be replicated for other sectors as well.
Thank you, Vincent. Maybe another question to focus a little bit more on InvestEU, and will this or does this impact our offer in terms of project finance?
Well, a little bit like FC before, we expect that InvestEU will help us to support projects, or even more projects with innovative features. If I take a very concrete example, in the renewable energy sector, for example, in a lot of jurisdictions, we see now projects which don't rely on a feed-in tariff anymore, or on CFDs, but more and more on corporate PPAs, power purchase agreements, or in some cases are even exposed partially to market risks. And this, of course, requires the debt providers to take a view on new type of risks. Yeah, we think that a program like InvestEU should help to accelerate these type of investments, for example.
Thank you, Vincent. And another topic that is very trendy here in the Czech Republic, it's PPPs, which is building on project finance type of structure. There has been recently the successful tendering of the D4 highway. And I wanted to ask you first, how can EIB participation be an advantage? And is it an advantage to have EIB on board for these projects? And what are the main sectors where you see some potential in the Czech Republic?
Yes, so indeed, as you said, so the Ministry of Transport is procuring several, or is intending to procure several roads or using PPPs. One project is currently under preparation, a new one, which should come to the market in the coming months or years. And we are assessing together with the Ministry of Transport if EIB can support this project. Vice President Pavlova also mentioned in her introduction a new advisory assignment, which was just signed with the ministry on rail projects. And we will, of course, follow this closely also from a lending perspective. I think what is important to remember for private companies, for private actors, which will be involved in these projects, is that when EIB is supporting a PPP, we can actually provide support to multiple bidders involved in the bidding process. We will be able to provide a quite large amount of debt, usually, at attractive terms and on a non-discriminatory basis, of course. So all the bidders should benefit from our support. This helps also to crowd in the private sector. And in the end, it enables the private bidder to place a competitive bid.
Thank you, Vincent. So it's an interesting feature indeed. We make our financing available to multiple bidders, so it's not we are not part only of one of the bids. Another interesting feature is indeed our capacity, so not on the financing side, so not for the private sector and for the bidders, but really for the public entity to get access to our EPEC, so our PPP expertise center that is providing advisory and that can be supporting the public promoters in that process. Maybe because we have a little bit more time, I will go back to you, François. You have mentioned, you have highlighted examples in particular on the energy side, but we know that there is more. You can help with support projects in mobility, but also, and that is very interesting, circular economy. I think lots of people wonder what can be supported there. Do you have examples?
Circular economy is a sector that we expanded on, and then we added the bioeconomy. The topology of circular economy is very difficult for venture capitalists because it combines a number of risk features. Of course, you have the challenge of demonstrating a new technology, so a new process for plastic treatment, or treating used clothes into a virgin fiber. So you have the technological risk, which is in most of our activity. But then adding to that is the feedstock risk. So will I have enough quality input to make my technology work? Will I have enough of the plastic quality and quantities that I need for feeding my new technology? Will I have enough of that used cotton to actually justify my business and have enough output? And then if you look at the other side, the output, you have a significant market risk, because usually these disruptive technologies, they will either try to displace fossil fuel products. They need to do it. There is an existing market. They need to displace existing players on a quality and a pricing perspective. And, the company we look at have a good business plan, but it is, there's a lot of uncertainty on their capacity to move into that market. Or you have a technology that actually is a total disruptor. You will change the product, and you will have the market needing to adopt this new product. Will the clients come? Will the clients accept this new product? And will the client have the assurance that you will produce enough of the product? So when you combine all those risks, circular economy is definitely a sector that can benefit from thematic impact finance when you regroup all those risks. And of course, they are emerging companies, so they don't have the track record to be on the normal, often not able to be on the normal venture debt product. And similar could be said about the bioeconomy. But as I said, the action for thematic impact or climate impact finance are highly relevant policy-driven projects, and they have a high impact on climate, and that's why we are intervening in them.
Thank you, François. This will be the end of the panel. If you want to network with our speakers, you will have the time during the break. It's not the break yet. We will have a testimony from a client just now, but there is this possibility. I just want to remind you that if you want to know more about our advisory services, if you want to be directed to our advisory services, be it for decarbonization, innovation, financial structuring advisory, but also our EPIC colleagues for the public sector, you can definitely contact the Prague office, and we'll direct you to our colleagues. The same for the financing. You can contact the Prague office, and we'll direct you to our colleagues, that will be the last word. Now we should be in contact with Mr. Martin Durchak, chairman of the board of CHEPS, that will tell you a little bit and give you a concrete example about long-term cooperation between CHEPS and the EIB. Welcome, Mr. Durchak, and thank you for being there.
Okay. Hello, everybody. Nice to see you, hear you. My name is Martin Durchak. I am responsible as the CEO of the company CHEPS, operating the Czech national grid.
I think we can't hear you very well.
You cannot hear us?
Yes, it's good now. It's good now.
It's better? Okay.
Yes.
I will try to speak closer to my microphone. Is now better?
Yes, absolutely. We can hear you well.
Okay, excellent. Once more, my name is, I will try to introduce myself. My name is Martin Durchak, and I'm responsible as the CEO for the Czech National Grid, CHEPS, operating the national grid, 5,600 kilometers and 44 substations, transformer and substation in Czech Republic. We are responsible not only for transmitting the energy, but we are responsible for balancing the Czech network system, including the distribution network systems in Czech Republic. We are cooperating with EIB, with the European Investment Bank since 2010. Since this time, we are exclusively cooperating with EIB. Not another bank is supporting us in our operation. And this exclusivity was transformed in closing 5 contracts since this time, loan contracts in the total amount of maximum exposure of 17.6 billion Czech crowns, from which we already are using roughly 15.5 billion, and the 1.6 are still waiting for and getting permission for some of our projects. Thanks to these loans, we could invest in the past roughly 100 projects. The division of the projects was roughly half, or 60% of these projects was related to the grid, modernization of the grid, increasing the capacity and construction of new grids. On the Czech territory, 40% was divided towards the reconstruction of the existing transformer substation on the Czech territory. A small portion was as well invested for the projects on the border with Germany. It was a special substation related to the increasing the transfer capacity between Czech Republic and Germany. From this amount, we already paid back roughly 5 billion Czech crowns, and we assume in the future as well to cooperate. What is for us very important in this operation, it is the relatively easiness of this cooperation. Starting this cooperation, we need roughly 6 months for starting from the opening the discussion for the particular loans till the closings and having the money on our account. It is in average 6 or 7 months, which is for us very important for the planning for the future. Investment banks, the European Investment Bank for sure is providing to us better conditions compared with the commercial institution on the Czech territory, and it is another reason why we are cooperating with the European Investment Bank. In the past, we were very successful in achieving and getting permitted the so-called green loan in the total amount of roughly 3.5 billion Czech crowns. And it is due to the fact that thanks to our modernizations of the grids, we are able to save the energy losses on the end, which means that we are saving the energy being produced for the total usage in Czech Republic and in the neighborhood countries. The increasing the capacity and modernization from 220 voltage towards 400 kV. Thanks to this increased capacity, we are saving the losses, and therefore we were able to qualify these loans as the green loan. And for these reasons, we are able to utilize, not as it was typically in the past, 30% of our investment, but we were able to finance up to 75% of our project investment from the so-called green loans. For the future as well, we are assuming to continue in these cooperations. And as I mentioned, thanks to better conditions compared with another institution, commercial institutions, and due to the easiness of these cooperations, we really, since the roughly 12 years cooperations, we established very good relations. And from my opinion, I would really recommend for everybody having these projects, firstly to see and watch and differentiate the standard projects and the green projects, and to cooperate with the with this institution. It is our opinion, and I'm ready for the question.
Thank you very much, Mr. Durchak. I think, yes, it's the right time for questions. If there are questions from the audience for Mr. Durchak, potentially also for other panelists. I can't see any hand raised, so I think we will then stop there and head for the break. Then thank you very much to all participants. Thank you very much, Mr. Durchak.
Thank you.
And
thank you.
So thank you. And this is the end of the panel. You can then move to the other room for the break. Thank you very much.
Milé dámy, milí páni, srdečne vás vítam po prestávke naspäť. Ak dovolíte, tak môžeme začať a pokračovať. Moje meno je Andrea Ferinčíková, pracujem v Európskej investičnej banke v pražskej kancelárii a mám na starosti inštitucionálne vzťahy a budem mať cťou viesť práve tento panel. And as we are having my colleagues also from the headquarters, I will switch directly to English to welcome them. First of all, let me start with Lady. It's my pleasure to welcome my colleague Desislava, who is working at an advisory hub as a senior advisor there. And of course, we have two gentlemen. I will start with Manuel, who is heading the public sector lending for the Central European region. And as well, we have our guest, but also not that far guest from our partnering organization, National Promotional Bank, Daniel Ryšavka. Welcome to all of you. And let me start with Manuel, with you, because you are heading the public sector for the region. And your clients include public administration, public sector entities, public-owned corporates, and promotional financial institutions. Could you introduce us briefly what is EIB doing and how is cooperating with this sector?
Hello, good morning. Thank you very much for the invitation to be in this panel. I think it's a pleasure always to come to Prague, but with this weather, it's even just a luxury. So I think we cannot be in better receive today. No, thank you very much. Yes, indeed. I mean, I think actually, when I was preparing the panel, my first reflection is better tell the people what are the public sector as we see it. And indeed, I mean, it's the cooperation with the three levels of administration that we have here. So the state, the regions, and the municipalities, and as well with the bodies that or administrative units that they might have associated to them. So, for example, in the state, I mean, we cooperate directly with the with administration and corporates. So normally, this administration would have as well public corporates, which actually deliver public services, water companies, transport companies. So those are part of our traditional clients. And finally, of course, we tend to call them sister institutions. Previously, Zemezerova, now NRB. I think those are national promotional institutions that actually share our goals in terms of fostering the public investment. The way we cooperate with, going to the question, the way we cooperate with them, it basically, I mean, as you may know, the EIB has is a policy-driven bank, so we have certain eligibilities which actually reflect, in fact, the policy objectives of the Commission. In our case, I mean, they have shifted. I mean, we traditionally had been a cohesion bank, meaning try to support the integration, economic integration of Europe. And very recently, in 2021, we actually moved to become not to be a cohesion bank, because we still remain to be a cohesion bank, but having the ambition to become a climate bank, which in fact would mean that 50% of our financing by 2025 will have to be dedicated to investment which actually have a positive impact on reducing climate action, climate impact on climate change. And not only that, I mean, this is an objective in not so distant future, but as a matter of fact, last year we already started having all our projects what we call Paris aligned. So making sure that none of the projects that EIB financed actually has a negative impact on the environment and on the climate. And within this eligibility objectives, we try to cooperate with the administrations. We basically have different products. And namely, within the public sector, there are two main products that we utilize. The first one is what we call investment loan. This product actually refers to the identification of a project that actually has a volume in excess of 25 million euros, for which we actually analyze from the technical perspective, from the economic perspective, from the financial perspective, from the procurement perspective, and from the environmental angle. So I think one question that probably will be asked to us is, where do we think that we add value to our clients? And I mean, we had before CHEPS, which actually is a public sector client, although we were speaking because it was as well a corporate. And clearly one thing that it was mentioned is, okay, our financial conditions, but I tend to think that our value added as well, it relates to the analysis that we do of the projects that we finance. Is the quality stamp of that we give to our borrowers of the analysis and due diligence that we do our projects. Once the EIB finance a project, you can be sure that the project makes sense from the economic perspective. It makes sense that it has a positive value within the economy and the society. That it makes sense from the financial angle. It is a project that is likely to be able to generate the financial flows that actually will be able to, will enable the borrower to repay the loan. Of course, we're a bank, and we hope that every loan will be repaid, but sometimes it's not the case. We have to do some sort of restructurings, and sometimes we have simply defaults. So, and as well, dealing with the public sector is of critical importance, and maybe so a little bit less in the Czech Republic because it's probably a little bit more advanced with other countries, but it's critically important in other countries that I cover with my team, that the procurement are fully in line with European regulations. I think that is a guarantee that we are supporting projects that are absolutely clean and they have been procured in a way that have allowed a competition for the different participants on it. And those companies who are implementing the projects really have gone through the procurement process in a way which has been transparent and actually in full compliance with the law. And going back to the climate, I think it's extremely important as well that right now, I mean, because our climate orientation, we really focus, I mean, we have been doing it for a number of years, but even more so that the projects that we finance, I mean, the borrowers that receive our loan can really clearly say that those are projects that are sustainable, in the sense that at least as a minimum, they do not harm the environment. And most of them would actually have a positive impact. And for example, speaking again of CHEPS, I mean, the investments that we were financing there, clearly, I mean, by reducing the energy losses, by increasing the power of transmission, would reduce the climate emissions and reinforce the possibility of the economy to be electrified faster and therefore reduce the future emissions that will be produced within the economy.
Thank you, Manuel. Maybe one short question to what you were saying. Many times these public sector entities are also using the EU grants. How is our financing? Maybe you can explain a bit more. How is the EIB financing complementary to the EU grants?
Yeah, normally, I mean, it was in the past, I mean, a rule, golden rule that the EU grants will not cover 100% of the project cost. I mean, I think we have been through very, very, very special and times in a way. I mean, it was not only the COVID for 2 years, but now we have the very sad or terrible situation of Ukraine, on which, what was the fundamentals of the economy has been put upside down. So, I mean, in these cases, there is the possibility to finance 100% of the projects with out of grants under RRFF, and as well probably out of the emergency response that the Commission will prepare. But normally, traditionally, structural funds and cohesion funds had require the participation of what we call the promoter. So the administration would undertake the project. Okay, what we do normally there is try to offer the financing of that contribution. So in fact, the administration or the body or the public company, the funds that they will have to put into the projects, we will finance it. So overall, I mean, the company has a package which is composed by grants and financing over the project life. I think if I were to think what are the real advantage of having EIB is precisely that we look at to the project. I mean, while clearly we care about the credit risk that involves a transaction with a given borrower, when we look to administrations, clearly to the state or the regions, I mean, our financings will be of a tenor equal or close to the operating life of the asset that we finance. This is something that commercial banks, I mean, may do it, but not all of them are capable to do it. I think an institution such as the EIB with the balance sheet and the credit ratings that we have actually allow us, we have the financial muscle to really provide this type of financing. And I think this is very much appreciated because it's actually, when you have an asset that actually is gonna last 20, 25 years, 30 years, okay, you can finance it in 10 years, but it requires an additional effort. I mean, and on the assets of the public sector, which are to benefit several generations, I think there is a little bit of financial fairness to really split the cost among the generations who are going to benefit from this type of assets. For example, we are now discussing with the Prague City on the financing of the new Metro D line. I mean, clearly, these type of infrastructures are going to be there for 100 years. So,
let's hope.
Yeah, they will be there. and it is important that it's not just the current citizens of Prague who pays for it. I think, I mean, probably yes, because they have made the decision through the representatives to have this project, and they have probably to share the largest cost of it. But as well, it's good that it's spread out through different generations, and that is what is finance for, to really spread over time these costs.
Sustainable financing, I would call it.
Yeah, definitely in this case.
Daniel, let's move to you now. I would start maybe with the saying that which might be quite familiar with the colleagues in the room, that the National Development Bank has gone through the transition, and it's not only about the changing the name, but really to focus more on also financing the infrastructure in the Czech Republic. Could you please tell us a bit more for those who don't know yet what is the transformation, the new strategy about?
Thank you for inviting me. Good morning. Thank you, Andrea, for this question. I mean, it's not only about the new brand, but it's important when your clients can pronounce properly your name. So that's the first step. And I think going back to the NATS, National Development Bank it shows clearly our new strategy and new focus, because historically it was mainly focusing on SMEs. We have served more than 100,000 projects. We finance them. It's a big deal. But since several years, we have seen this necessity not only provide grants, I mean, for the municipalities, but we have seen that there is a real demand also from the state to provide the financial instruments. So our focus is use the financial instruments, the repayable financing, and we have expanded the new areas such as like transport, energy, schools, as infrastructure and social infrastructure environment. And to this aim, we can use our subsidies. I mean, we have present in the regions, and we are saying that we are like a local EIB, right? That we complement our big partner, and also with the scale of our projects, which are adapted to our size. So that's the main orientation for upcoming years in our strategy.
Having said this, we have just last year actually signed very nice operation. Could you please tell us more about this? What was signed?
Yeah, well, we have signed a loan with European Investment Bank about 5 billion Czech crowns. And the aim is to provide financing to the municipalities and public sector mainly. And the biggest advantage is also the flexibility, which we can provide to the municipalities, especially nowadays with Ukrainian crisis, because we can also fund social infrastructure, social housing, affordable housing, for example, housing for refugees for the cities or institutions. So this can be, and we hope so, a very important instrument for cities and municipalities. The amount we use, it's approximately, the amount of the projects, it's about 25 million, up to 25 million euro. We used the EIB loan up to 50% of financing. So the aim is also to attract the private sector and commercial banks and to partner with them, and multiplying the financing.
Thank you very much. And we have heard already today several times that the bank is not only about the financing, but also about the advisory. And I'm happy that Desislava is also here with us. And Desislava, what are the programs which are now under the EIB Advisory Hub? And maybe as we are speaking today about the InvestEU and the new program to come, what would be also the new programs?
Thanks for that question. Thank you for that question, Andrea. And indeed, the bank is not only about lending and blending, but also about providing advisory support. And for us, this has been very important so far. And maybe some of you are familiar with the advisory services that have been available under the European Investment Advisory Hub. This is something that the Vice President, Liliana Pavlova, mentioned in her opening remarks, that we have been working on this program for a few years now and have been providing advisory support to various entities, including quite actively in the Czech Republic. And this model is serving as the basis for the InvestEU Advisory Hub, which is sort of the continuation and the upscale, I would say, of the European Investment Advisory Hub. So under this new model, the EIB will continue providing advisory services. We will be implementing 75% actually of the InvestEU Advisory Hub. And the advisory support will continue to be available both for the public and private sector. The services will be broadly clustered in 3 categories: project-related advisory support, capacity building, and market development. What this means in practice is that support will continue to be available for project identification, project preparation, for example, development of feasibility studies, cost-benefit analysis, financial structuring, financial modeling. There will also be capacity building support, which will be investment-related capacity building support, very much project-focused, targeted also towards financial intermediaries that will be implementing specific financial products, and market development and awareness raising activities. So the clear focus is going to be on the project side of things, which means that the majority of resource and effort will be concentrated on working on individual projects, because our experience to date shows that this is an area where the impact is really significant, obviously, and where there is also need for specific project interventions so that we can help promoters, as I said, both from the public and the private sector, reach the bankable stage for their projects faster, which is going to be our aim also under the InvestEU Advisory Hub. So that being said, probably a natural question is whether these services will be available for some or all of the policy windows that were mentioned at the beginning of today's event by both the Vice President and the representative of the European Commission. And the answer is that advisory support will continue to be available under all 4 policy windows. So we will work quite a lot on preparing sustainable infrastructure investments with clear focus on supporting the EU's immediate priorities. In terms of immediate challenges, we can call them definitely, and bigger ambitions in the sense of reaching climate neutrality. We will be working on developing energy efficiency investments, base sustainable infrastructure, renewable energy solutions, all kind of initiatives that can support the EU's objectives. Support will also be available for SMEs and to financial intermediaries working with SMEs. Another big focus is going to be research, development, and innovation, as well as digitization, which is of growing importance and is a key enabler actually for the twin green and digital transition that the EU is currently on its way on. And last but certainly not least, social investment, social infrastructure. This is a very, very important topic. And here I want to spend just a little bit of time to link it with the current situation. And during meetings over the past few days, it has been made abundantly clear that there is a very big need for support in this area. Currently, with the situation with Ukraine, with the flow of migrants that are coming to the Czech Republic, but obviously not only to the Czech Republic, there is an acute need to enhance and to accelerate investments in social infrastructure like hospitals, long-term care centers, educational facilities, social housing, affordable housing, basically all the various elements that comprise this area. And I want to say that support will continue to be available for such type of sustainable investments. And we will be more than happy to engage in specific discussions to see how we can make it available.
Maybe one specific question to what you are saying, how, if someone is interested to get an advisory support from the advisory hub, how the process goes? I mean, like, is there a web portal? Is there something to approach? Could you please maybe mention this part of how basically entity can get the support from the advisory hub?
Absolutely. So in one of the changes that InvestEU is bringing about is that the Commission is centralizing the entry point to the various advisory programs and initiatives. As I said at the beginning, the EIB is implementing 75% of the InvestEU Advisory Hub, which means that 25% are going to be open for other advisory partners, such as national promotional banks and institutions, international financing institutions, and other entities, which means that the Commission has developed on their web portal a centralized request that can be completed and that can be submitted directly to the Commission. And the entities that are interested in receiving support specifically from one advisory partner on the other can indicate this in that request. Obviously, we have been working quite a lot and quite directly with clients on the ground, which means that you're more than free, more than welcome to also send us an email.
The presence is already there.
The presence is already there. We have been working quite actively on that. And of course, feel free and welcome to send us an email and we will engage in discussions. But what I also wanted to say is that the website of the European Investment Advisory Hub already contains quite good information about InvestEU Advisory Hub, in the various services that will be offered in this context. So I very much want to invite interested project promoters to visit the website to get a little bit of a better understanding of the types of services that are available to them, also under the EU Advisory Hub, and then send us a specific request for those services.
Excellent. Thank you very much for this. And speaking about the local presence, we have also some advisory programs with NRB. One of them is actually the local advisory hub that we were establishing. Is it 2 years already now? And the other program, a very famous lady called Elena. Daniel, please tell us more. What are or how do you implement within the organization these two programs? And if you are maybe even planning to do some more of advisory activities in the future?
Yeah, we have 2 successful advisory programs. Speaking about Elena, it's mainly for the public sector, regions, cities, municipalities, and the aim is to ease the realization of energy savings methods via the EPC. It's a technical assistance that we offer to the public entities, and the advantage is that they are covering about 90% of overall cost for this preparation of the project assessment, and even the help with the selection of the EPC providers, which is very helpful for the cities. So that's a big success, and we have several cooperations with the cities already. Program is running. And the second part is advisory, more in general, I would say, where National Development Bank is acting as the center of competence for financial instruments. So we are helping municipalities with, I would say, with financially structuring the project to be discussed with them. Sometimes just discussing, sometimes helping with the more in a more structural way, and like trying to help with the economic model, with the access to finance, So all this should, in the end, help the municipalities to finance the local projects, as I mentioned, in the field of public transport, even the energy, environment, and doing this sustainable way, because of course we have this also this sustainable approach. Even though sometimes we have requests for like basic infrastructure, I would say roads and others that they are still in need locally, but we also help them to think about PPP projects or EPC projects. So that's very interesting.
Thank you. I think that you are doing a really good job for us also to come and take the advantage. Manuel, let's get back to you. The green agenda, the green financing, how we are transforming or helping to or supporting the public sector, maybe even on this regional level, to get more greener. There is also the new program, which is European Commission launching soon, the Just Transition Mechanism. What would be also the role of your team and our financing under this public lending to really make the sector greener?
Yeah. No, thank you for the question. I think if we face, Europe is facing 2 transitions. Clearly, one is the green transition and the other one is the digitalization. On the green transition, what we are trying to do is to accompany the public administration, which actually are one of the key partners to undertake this transition into that process. The way we do it is at the bank, we have developed our policies, are already reflecting what should be the eligibility of the projects, which actually first do not have a significant harm to the environment, and secondly contribute to it. These policies, which have been developed internally by the bank, are already reflected in the European taxonomy, although As you may know, there is not yet an approved test, and there are a couple of points which are of deep controversy concerning whether or not certain gas facilities or nuclear energy would be eligible. But okay, that's I mean, in the context of the current crisis, has become very, very relevant. But the EIB already has taken a little bit of a stand on that. In principle, we support nuclear safety, but not extensive capacity. And for gas, we have set our maximum threshold of emissions. But going back to the point how we accompany these public administration or companies into doing that, I mean, what we basically do is to make sure that when they have projects which actually would go to support this transition, I mean, these projects get adequate financing. And we do it through two ways. First, I mean, with our traditional products, which already are fitted in terms of providing the financing to the tenor of the economic life of the project. But secondly, we have make it a step forward. Normally, EIB limits its financing at 50% of the project cost. In the case of having projects which actually comply with what we define as a green project, we actually will go up to 75% of the project costs. That clearly, I mean, that helps the promoters because there's less own resources or less additional finances that they have to procure or get in order to get this project finance, and ensures that the overall cost of financing for the projects will be lower. Altogether, I mean, don't forget that these are not private institutions, and therefore their objective is not to get them to maximize the profit of the shareholders, but simply to use the resources in the best possible way. So anything that they save out of financing of projects that actually make sense for the society of the citizens they serve, they can use it to actually undertake other priorities, and therefore there's a multiplication effect on saving costs on the financing of the projects, which actually target this important transition, which is the green transition. Thank you.
Thank you. And when you have the mic, another question, because we have been also making the reference to Ukraine since the early morning, and speaking also about the InvestEU and the new windows that the program is bringing. Do you see that perhaps even the countries like Czech Republic can somehow or could somehow benefit from out of these new windows to finance the social infrastructure investments from or supported or backed by the InvestEU program? How do you see this, please?
Definitely. I mean, I think the bank has quickly reacted to the crisis, first helping the Ukrainian people and the Ukrainian government with the facilities that we had in place. And clearly, let's hope that this very sad situation comes to an end and the war is finished, and therefore the bank will be there for the reconstruction of every infrastructure that has been destroyed in Ukraine. But until that happens, and hopefully it will be soon, what we have done is to ensure that the countries that are affected by first, the inflow of refugees, and secondly, most likely, of the distortion that this crisis has created on all of the markets, energy markets first, food supply next probably, but overall, I mean, it will clearly distort the overall economies. So what we have done is, as we speak, we are proposing this to our decision-making bodies, is to ensure that first, the public sector counterparts of EIB have access to liquidity within the system lines that we have. For that, normally, because as I said, we are policy-driven banks, our facilities come with certain conditions. I think we will take a flexible approach to these conditions to be sure that these funds which are available are there, and the administrations are not forced to take other sources of financing which are, because of the circumstances, more expensive than should normally be. The second initiative that we are taking is to prepare what we call a program loan for the whole region, which actually means a framework approval with a sizable amount to be decided yet, which can later be implemented through individual loans to borrowers that actually would need the funds. And clearly, the eligibility criteria for this facility will be precisely those that are in need for the refugees, is housing and shelter, is basic infrastructure in terms of cities having to deal with many more inhabitants, therefore having problems with the basic infrastructure for sewage, collection of waste, and electricity provision networks, telecommunication networks. Then, I mean, we are seeing extremely sadly that the refugees are mainly women and children. Clearly, children need education, and we will be there for providing and helping the cities and the regions and the states to provide the educational services. And of course, health, I mean, that will be something that will be overstretched. I mean, the pandemic has demonstrated that the health systems of the countries, while were corrected, sized for normal circumstances, for crisis circumstances, okay, were not enough. I think this new crisis will put the systems again under stress, and the support of EIB will be there in order to enhance the capabilities and as well to provide financing for emergency facilities that will be needed. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think that this immediate response is really something which the situation requires. But this is Slava. Let's move back to you. And you have been already highlighting several of these windows and let's say maybe these policy windows which will the InvestEU advisory have. But could you please say a few words about the maybe flagship initiatives or flagship programs which will be under the InvestEU new program for advisory?
Absolutely. So indeed, we have mentioned both in terms of sectors and in terms of types of support that will be available, but I want to make a few highlights. And some of these highlights, I'm sure that you're already familiar with because they have been available also so far, but we're complementing and developing further with specific initiatives. And I want to start with the Elena initiative, which will continue, which has been available until now and which will continue to be available also in the new programming period, integrated seamlessly under the umbrella of the InvestEU Advisory Hub. So Elena is a program which is quite well known in the Czech Republic. And here in the audience, we have my colleague Andreas Piontek from the Elena program, who is largely responsible for this big popularity of Elena and who can address specific projects or discuss with you afterwards in case you have any concrete ideas. But Elena will continue to be available to support energy efficiency, renewable energy projects, and sustainable urban mobility solutions in cities, also in the new programming period. This is something that is quite important to mention, and something that I wanted to definitely to start with. Another initiative, another program which will continue to be available is, of course, Jaspers, which is again quite popular and quite active in the Czech Republic. It will continue operating under the new programming period, of course, and it will be even more active and even closer to project promoters to provide support also related to the Just Transition Fund, which is a topic that is specifically important in the context of the Czech Republic. And the just transition that is especially relevant these days. That being said, we spoke quite a bit about the topic of sustainability, and this is an important topic for the EIB and for the EU as a whole. For the EIB, because we're becoming the EU's climate bank and are focusing more and more our projects and our activities on the topics of sustainability and sustainable investments. An area which is of quite big relevance is circular economy. And we have developed a specific initiative, which is the Circular Cities Initiative, C3, and we're currently piloting it, but are going to expand it and upscale it under the InvestEU Advisory Hub. The idea is to provide specific advisory support, guidance, and awareness raising support to cities to identify circular economy projects and programs, to prepare these projects, to implement them in a viable way, because circular economy being quite cross-cutting, quite rich, and at the same time novel topic, it can be quite challenging in the local level. And that's why I wanted to make it clear that support will be available, will be increasingly available for such type of projects under the InvestEU Advisory Hub. And probably a last highlight that I want to make, where we have been talking quite a lot about social investment, social infrastructure, but it's very important to say that social outcomes contracting is an initiative that we have been developing under the InvestEU Advisory Hub, and it will continue to be available under InvestEU Advisory Hub in an even bigger scale. So I don't want to throw too many names and too many initiatives, but I wanted to place these highlights on specific priority areas. And again, use the opportunity to invite everyone to visit our website, to have a look at the details of each of the specific initiatives and get in contact with us to discuss them further.
Thank you very much, Desislava, and also you're still staying with us during the lunch break. So everyone who is interested to learn even much more can definitely find you and talk to you. Thank you, first of all. But before we conclude the panel, I would like to welcome on the line our guest from Pardubický kraj. Dobrý deň, prajem. I would love to introduce you Mr. Jan Slavik, who is the Chief Financial Director at the Pardubický region. And we would be very happy to hear also your story, your testimony. How have you already cooperated with the EIB, and maybe also what are your investment plans in the region? Over to you.
Good afternoon. Is it okay to hear me? Yeah, fine. Thank you very much for the invitation. My name is Jan Slavik and I'm a head of financial department. Our cooperation was started in 2005 with EIB, because this year we signed the first contract about our reconstruction of the roads, because we need the money. And after that, we have several experience with this, because nowadays we are in the fourth contract with EIB, and I think that we will be continue in the next year. Our plans is important for our public region, because we need to rebuild or reconstruct social equipment, roads, environment project, healthcare systems, and of course regional development. Value of this project is up to the contract, but average loan is about 1.2 billion Czech crown. The last contract was signed in 2020. There is another conditions, because we have also some green and smart projects. It was conditions for this, and I think that we spend this money for this area. The value of the entire project is about 5.6 billion Czech crown, because the conditions are 50% our finance and 50 finance from EIB. There is also another condition. It's new from 2020. I like to read because I don't remember, but yeah, this. The condition, total amount of the loan together with other European grants may in case exceed 10% of the total cost of the project referred to into the introductory provision. New requirement in 2020. This is a new because in the past we can't do this, or how to say, because there is another conditions in contracts. But experience. Finally, we are very glad that we cooperate with employees from EIB. They also evaluate us and very positively, and we also to be fine because interest burden was very important for us in a Czech sector because we lower interest rates from this loan. Of course, we appreciate the application Client Connect. It's some application for communicating between banks and us. It's also, I think, perfect. So this is the experience, and in the future we would like to finance, of course, the reconstruction of the road and another phases. Our castle and of course our hospital. So that's our plans for future.
Thank you very much, and I think that we are all here curious to also one day go and visit the sites that have been financed by the EIB. Not only have you on the line, but to have you to meet you in Pardubice. Unfortunately, we are running a bit out of time, so we are not that much able to take questions. But I'm sure that we will have still an opportunity to discuss several things over the break. First of all, I would like to once again thank to all of the panelists which are here in person, but also to Mr. Slavik who has connected. And with this, please join me to thank all of them. And I would like to also invite at the same time the next panel with my colleague Natalie to chair and continue the session. Thank you.
Okay.
Wow. Hello.
Allô?
Hello.
Test.
Hello.
Ladies and gentlemen, so we will start with the next panel. We are running a little bit out of time, so we'll try to start as soon as possible. I'm delighted to welcome you in this panel, which is focusing on financial intermediaries. Namely, it's dedicated to our financing to banks and funds. I'm very happy to welcome today Valentin Radja. He's a loan officer at EIB, focusing on the banking sector in Central Europe, in particular on the Czech Republic. We have also from the EIB group, Michal Košina, who works for the EIF in mandate management, focusing mainly on equity products. And again, from EIF, Domenico Anechino, who is joining remotely today. He works for EIF to structure guarantee operations for the banking sector. With us as well to present our long-term cooperation with the Venerable Pavel Krivonoshka, member of the board, that will present at a later stage the status of our cooperation, what we've done on guarantees and all other products together. So I will start now with a question to Valentin. So the EIB has been a long-term partner of Czech Bank. We have been cooperating with the sector for quite some time and successfully. In the current context, how do you see the business development in the next year for the bank, and which products and sector do you think you would particularly focus on?
Thank you, Natalie. And I will start by expressing my joy in seeing people face to face again after a long period of special operating conditions. Coming back to your question, I think EIB traditionally focused on the funding products of redirecting liquidity into the Czech economy via the small and medium companies. This product was a bit under challenge following the abundant liquidity conditions in the market. So we tried to adjust our product range to better suit the current operating conditions. And in terms of concrete steps, what we have done, the funding product, we try to adjust it in such a way to be more appealable to our financial institution partners. Especially lending in other parts of the capital stack, not only at a senior and senior secured level. And then in conjunction with the funding product, we try to deploy various guarantee products. We are launching these days a risk sharing product targeting mid-caps and SMEs. And we are also preparing a portfolio guarantee product in the securitization format via a joint product with EIF.
Thank you, Valentin. One quick question. The focus has been mainly on SMEs until recently. Is there a change of focus, or are you diversifying your segment?
SME remain one of our pillars. It's still one of the 4 public policy goals at EIB. But we are diversifying. So part of the green objectives, I think we right now target whatever green project, irrespective of the beneficiary. So it can be obvious SMEs and mid-caps, public entities. And as a novel area of activities, we right now are able to finance also households for energy efficiency products.
Thank you, Valentin. And now we will move to the EIF to investigate what is new and what you are proposing for banks. So you will implement the InvestEU window, that is targeting SMEs. What are the main guarantee products that will be deployed? And also maybe you can elaborate on what is the difference with FC.
Sure. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for having me there. I hope you can see and hear me well. And maybe I will Thanks a lot for the question, Natalie. Maybe I will start from the last part of the question as an introduction on let's say which are the elements of novelty in the guarantee offer under InvestEU. As you mentioned, indeed, we will deploy a product under the SME window, but also under the sustainable infrastructure window and the social investment and skills window. With regards as the element of novelties, I must say that we have under InvestEU a strong thematic approach. This strong thematic approach also helped us to in discussion with the Commission within the EIB group to identify new opportunities for intervention. And as a result of this strong thematic approach, we will have for the first time a product that will be focused on exclusively on the green. So the sustainability guarantee that is quite a novelty in the palette of the product that will be offered. Another element that I would like to stress with regards to the difference with the previous programming period is that we have been able to achieve a better integration in the support with regards to the financial and non-financial support. What I mean with this, we will have the guarantee as financial support, but we will have let's say much more integrated offer with the advisory from EIB that will help the financial intermediary to address together with us some specific policy goals, and this is also something quite new. I would like to say that obviously this is what we're going to offer is a result of an evolution of what was offered under EFSI, for example. So there are many elements of novelty, but there is also an element of continuity. What I mean is that obviously financial intermediaries do not need to, let's say, reinvent the kind of cooperation with the EIF. There are some things that are even simplified. So I'm thinking, for example, about the negotiation of guarantee agreement. We will have the chance to have under InvestEU different policy portfolios that will be covered by the same guarantee agreement. While in the past, for example, there was need to have different guarantee agreements. These would simplify the life of financial intermediary because they can simplify the phase of the negotiation of the guarantee agreement, but also will help them in streamlining the process, for example, in the reporting. Because if you have a different agreement, you will have different reporting. If you have one agreement, you will have one reporting for different portfolios. In terms of continuity, what I also intended to say is that financial intermediaries that were working with DIF in the past, let's say under a program like COSME, Innofin will not struggle to find which is the successor guarantee program now under InvestEU. So there will be continuity on this, and also the enhanced access to finance will be, let's say, delivered through a mechanism that sometimes are already well known to the intermediaries, like serving underserved group of final recipients. I'm thinking about startups or collateral decrees and other elements that were already successfully used in order to transfer benefit to the final recipient. And also we have some programs that are available now under InvestEU that are a result of some pilot that we were able to launch thanks to the cooperation with the Commission in the previous programming period. I'm thinking, for example, to the digitalization pilot under COSME and Innofin that now will be plugged in a new product, and I'm thinking about also the skills and education program now will be offered under the social skills.
Thank you, Domenico, for this overview of the landscape of the possibilities. You mentioned that there would be continuity, but that indeed there is an increased sectoral focus. Can you maybe summarize a little bit what I mean? You already said what is different, but the specific types of guarantees and products, and if there are also other products than guarantees that can be provided, including maybe some funded product.
Sure. Going so a little bit more into the details, what will be soon available with the publication of call for expression of interest will be a palette of product that will include a sustainability guarantee. The sustainability guarantee is this product that will be offered both capped and uncapped, and will target private individuals, SMEs, and small mid-caps, and will help basically to support Europe in having a sustainable transformation. So the main topic that will be covered under this guarantee will be, for example, climate change mitigation, climate change adaptation, circular economy, and other investment related to environmental impact and sustainable management of natural resources, and so on. This, as I was mentioning before, is a new product that, for example, was not offered under the previous programming period. Then we will have, is always in the palette of the product to be offered, the SME competitiveness guarantee that will be for the ones that are familiar with COSME, with the successor of COSME. It will also this product will benefit from enhanced features, so will be offered capped and uncapped, while COSME was offered only capped. Uncapped under some specific conditions. We'll have 3 specific options, while COSME had 2 options of deployment. Then we will have the innovation and digitalization guarantee that will have, let's say, the element of, let's say, the successor of Innofin for the intermediary that were familiar and were cooperating under Innofin, but also will include, let's say, the digitalization part that was the result of a success pilot launched under COSME and Innofin in the previous programming period. It was a pilot, was very well received from the market, and that's the reason why now is plugged in the innovation digitalization guarantee. We will have the cultural and creative sector guarantee that will be offered capped and uncapped, and again for the ones in the audience that were familiar with the CCS guarantee that was offered under EFSI, this is a let's say a successor with the improved feature, and the goal will be to let's say support the creative and cultural sector, considering that it is underserved by the market. Then we will have the microfinance, social and skill guarantee that will have 2 guarantee under this umbrella. One is the microfinance and social enterprise that will be, let's say, the successor with improved feature of EASY, and the other one will be the skills, education and training. Skills and education and training guarantee is the result, let's say, of the successful experience with the pilot of skills and education under EFSI. The pilot was quite successful, very well received from the market. And so with this product, we will try to address, to support private individuals that want to upskill, reskill, and invest in education, and also to support companies that will invest in the upskill and reskill of their workforce, and companies that are providing, let's say, training and education. This is the palette of the unfunded product. There is also a specific initiative under the microfinance that is funded, and is also related to a pilot that was launched under EFSI and was quite successful, and is focused on helping specific microfinance actors that will increase, thanks to the support of the instrument, their capacity. So to build up additional capacity in order to increase volumes and increase their reach out.
Thank you, Domenico. Maybe a very last question on the segments that are addressed. Is it only SMEs and companies, or do you also expand to other segments?
Yeah, we will have. It will depend on the guarantee and the eligibility criteria, but we will have SMEs, like let's say the main focus, but we'll have also small mid caps, and we will have, for example, private individuals. I'm thinking about the skills guarantee, or I'm thinking about also the sustainability guarantee that will support individuals. We will have also a small public enterprise, like in the case of CCS. So there is quite, even if the SMEs obviously will remain the main focus, but there are also opportunities for other kind of final recipient.
Thank you, Domenico. I will now ask Valentin a little bit more about the climate angle of the InvestEU, but also of the bank, of the EIB, because we are not a climate bank. And I wanted to check with you, and so that you can elaborate on how we are supporting as a climate bank the climate transition, in particular through our financial intermediaries. Sorry.
So I think we have a three-pronged approach, direction of action. So we have a set of products, started with our funding products, which directs funding to the green projects, and then continuing with hybrid products, combining funding and guarantees, and as well as more niche products, like a new one which we are trying to develop at the moment, addressing the need for a solvency guarantee for the SMEs and mid caps participating in the power purchasing agreements. So a multitude of products, and then on top of the products, there are some what we call advisory services. So they are practically grants targeted at capacity building, so at helping our financial intermediaries originate the green projects. And in this, as example in these areas are a green checker. So it's this online tool which we offer to the financial intermediaries in order to quickly check whether a lending product or an underlying project can qualify for EIB support under the green umbrella. There is also climate action, so-called climate action support facilities, which is, again, it's a grant through which financial intermediaries are able to hire external support, which again will help with their capacity building. And then the third one, we have the new counterparty Paris alignment due diligence, so under which we ask all our banking counterparts to publish their action they take in order to become as an institution aligned with the Paris Agreement. So yeah, in summary, products, advisory support, and transparency at the counterparty level.
Thank you, Valentin. Before we move to the equity side with Michal, I have a last question for the two of you, for Valentin and Domenico. We see that you are addressing the same counterparties. We are both working with banks. On the EIB side, more on the funded products. On the EIF side, more on the guarantee side. Are these products compatible? And do you foresee some joint initiatives?
Okay, if you want, I can start and then leave to Valentin. Yes, what I can say that I see quite a lot in the past from previous experience, and I expect and I hope to see more and more is the example of some intermediaries that were able to benefit from cheaper funding from the EIB and guarantee from the EIF in order to build up products that were designed to target a specific cluster of final recipient, and this let's say support coming both from EIB and the EIF put together was able also to bring quite a high level of additionality in the product and to help to address the policy goals. And honestly, I expect more and more of this in the future. Please, Valentin.
Sure. So our intention is to make the products compatible and to the extent possible, because oftentimes we work under mandates and other external constraints, which limits our capacity to draft those products in the way we want. But our overall intention is to make them compatible, and we have a track record of working together. Right now, we are launching a new securitization product, which will be a joint product with EIF. And in general, we show flexibility in order to be able to combine the products in as often as possible.
Thank you, Valentin. So now we will explore a little bit more what the EIF can provide in terms of equity financing and support to funds. Michal, what are the main products that will be deployed? And could you guide us through the landscape of what is available, notably under InvestEU?
Sure, thank you, Natalie. So I will probably be echoing some of the things Domenico said, because apparently, I mean, obviously the InvestEU has some horizontal objectives that applies throughout the products. In the most simplest of terms, the core product remains the same. So investments in funds, right? What we've been doing for years. Now, the question is what types of funds and what types of strategies. So in terms of types of funds, we'll remain active throughout the market. So we're talking about pre-seed, seed funds, accelerators, PA co-investment funds, technology transfer funds, early or later stage VC funds, growth, private equity funds, buyout even. We're talking about mezzanine funds, selective debt, private debt funds, and so on. As a new type of fund that we started supporting as of last year, we are also now active in infrastructure. So we are investing in infrastructure funds. This is a novelty, which also applies under InvestEU. So infrastructure funds are now one of the new areas that will be applicable also under InvestEU. Now, in terms of the strategies, there are 6 main strategies that we'll be looking for in the underlying funds that we'll be investing in. So the first one is what we call enabling sectors. Enabling sectors are basically includes investments in funds that focus on technologies like semiconductors, space, health tech and life sciences, industrial technologies, and even defense. Just to give you an idea in terms of where the focus lies, half of this allocation for this specific strategy will go towards funds specifically active in space and semiconductors. So it's quite a priority. Now, the second main strategy is what we call climate and environment. So here we're talking about energy transition, decarbonization, agri-tech, so food, agriculture, and so on, clean tech funds, blue economy. So we're talking about the funds that basically make the use of marine resources or water resources more sustainable, and so on. Again, to give you an idea where the focus lies, almost half of the allocation for this area will go towards blue economy funds. The third area, or the third main strategy, which we're looking for in the underlying funds, is what we call digital, cultural, and creative sectors. So this is quite a broad area. So we're talking about digital technologies like AI, blockchain, cybersecurity, quantum computing, 5G-based services, Internet of Things, and so on and so forth. On the, let's say, cultural and creative side, we're talking about edutech, so education, and culture and creative sectors, as they say, so media and such. On the fourth large area or strategy includes what we call capital markets union. So here we're talking about investments in funds that support more major types of companies, so more on the private equity side. So typical growth private equity, hybrid debt equity funds, mezzanine funds, selective debt funds, and diversified debt funds. As the fifth area, that's social impact. Again, an area we've been active in for quite some time. So there will be a dedicated window just for social impact funds. So we're supporting social enterprises, so enterprises driven by social as well as financial objectives. We are not removing the financial objective here. And specifically when we talk about social impact funds, we always tie the financial motivation of a manager of such a fund to the social objectives of the fund, actually. So we are serious about the impact part of it. And the sixth large area is the one I mentioned as a novelty. So this is infrastructure. And under infrastructure, we're talking about green infrastructure. So again, renewable energy resources, energy utilities. Then we have also water treatment, waste management. There's digital infrastructure, so communication networks, data centers, and so on. Social infrastructure, hospitals, education facilities, and so on. And even space infrastructure. So there is a specific sub-focus even on infrastructure for the space industry. Again, to give you an idea where the focus lies generally among these six strategies, the largest allocation is actually for infrastructure. So the newest area. Behind it, more or less equal amounts expected for the enabling sectors and digital and creative and cultural sectors. And then behind it, the remaining two strategies, so climate, environment, and social impact. Can you elaborate on the question further? I get lost, I think, in the.
Well, I think you started to elaborate on that actually, okay. But the next question was about the difference, or the main difference, if you want to highlight, sure. to our audience that is used to your previous ones, but maybe what is new, and maybe if you address also like for the infrastructure fund, all the types of beneficiaries which were before, like mainly innovation startups and so
Sure. On. So in terms of what is new, so indeed infrastructure is the big new, let's say. And the other big new is what Dominika was saying. We are much more focused on specific sectors, which I think was clear also from what I was talking about under those different strategies. On top of those strategies, we are looking for also what we would call horizontal KPIs across any kind of strategy, meaning we'll be paying more attention to things like gender diversity. We're paying more attention to, let's say, supporting less developed markets. There will be a sub-focus on technology transfer funds, so working with universities or other research centers for applying, in order to apply research in practice in business, and so on. So these are sort of the two main differences. In terms of final beneficiaries, these remain primarily SMEs in case technology transfer in pre-incorporation technology projects at universities or research centers or technology rights. Even mid-caps then after SMEs basically. And in relation to infrastructure, this clearly entails project finance, so SPVs, specifically infrastructure projects.
Thank you, Michal. And now maybe we'll expand the scope a little bit beyond InvestEU, because your offer, the EIF offer, is not limited to InvestEU. What else is currently available for our clients? And are you working also on new mandates? One thing that I have noticed recently was the investment in the tech transfer funds, for instance, INI. Could you tell us if there are some mandates, for instance, with similar eligibilities, very, very early stage?
Sure. So indeed, InvestEU is not the only program we will be deploying that's applicable to Czech Republic. And of particular interest should be programs that actually are developing very specifically focused only on this local market. So we are actually working on 3 new initiatives. The one which is nearest, let's say, in timeline, and we are just about to launch it, is basically a new VC program under the Recurrent Resilience Facility, or the National Recovery Plan of the Czech Republic. So this is in cooperation with the Ministry of Industry and Trade, which decided to allocate 55 million euros towards this program that entails 3 specific funds with very specific strategies. The overall focus of this program will be on support for disruptive strategic technologies, which include AI, again, blockchain, fintech, and others. And these 3 funds are, the first one is a pre-seed co-investment fund. So the particular focus of this fund will be on supporting pre-seed stage companies, meaning companies that are pre-revenue. So they are only developing their minimum viable product. They are only looking for a pilot customer or testing the market. But all this done in cooperation with other players on the market. So the idea was both to increase the number of pre-seed stage companies on the market, which would then also feed, let's say, the already existing later stage funds on the market. And at the same time, develop the broader ecosystem by supporting the existing players whose capacity will be increased basically by being able to co-invest alongside this fund, which also share obviously risks of this very, very early stage with them. The second fund, and there will be a particular sub-focus mainly on those disruptive technologies that I mentioned earlier. So, and generally all those support companies should be developing digital technologies. The second fund is what we call a strategic tech VC fund. So this will be more type of a generalist VC fund or without like a particular structure, but specifically focusing on AI and blockchain and on supporting applications of these technologies in a regulated environment. So actually the projects that this fund will invest in should ideally benefit from the various regulatory sandboxes that are being launched, particularly on the EU level, but also actually in Czech Republic for fintech and for blockchain. Then the third fund is what we call an University Technology Transfer Fund with particular focus on AI. So this will be a technology transfer fund connected to a consortium of universities managing the European Center of Excellence in AI. So very particularly focused on universities that already have existing research in AI. And it will be trying to solve, let's say, the technology transfer in Czech Republic in this area, and specifically in the area of AI technologies. So we'll be helping the universities to transfer the research into business practice, so spin-off, creating spin-offs and supporting their growth. So this is one of those programs, and we are about to launch it in the upcoming month or 2, likely. So we are already working on these 3 instruments, and we'll be selecting the fund managers for these 3 funds in the next 9 to 12 months, basically. It's going through our investment process. Now, a little bit further down the road, we have a potential successor program to what we did in Czech Republic in 2017. So that's, we call it in English, we call it the Czech ESIF Fund of Funds. In Czech, you might have heard about it as the Fond Fondu OPEPIK. So here we supported at the time 2 fund managers managing accelerator and seed capital funds. There is a plan by the Ministry of Industry and Trade to again allocate under the new operational program a budget of about 30 or 31 million to a similar equity financial instrument. The strategy is still being discussed. We understand that from the ex-ante analysis that is currently being carried out, it seems that there is quite some demand for impact and for technology transfer. So the funds will probably try to somehow combine the strategy of a successor to the original program with this sub-focus. So this to be seen. The operation program, as I understand, is supposed to be approved by early summer, essentially, and then we'll engage with in more detailed discussions with the ministry on the practical aspects of implementation, and it could be operational probably late this year or next year. Then the third program that is again, and both of these that I'm talking about are specifically only for Czech Republic and focusing on Czech enterprises or Czech startups, with some flexibility to invest potentially internationally, but in general it's Czech Republic focused. And the third one is a successor program to Central Europe Fund of Funds, which is another program which we launched in 2017 in cooperation with national development banks and governments of Czech Republic, Slovakia, Austria, Hungary, and Slovenia. So this fund of funds ended its investment period last year in December. It invested in 9 later stage venture capital and private equity funds. 3 of these 9 are managed by the Czech-based teams, so it's quite a share out of the 5 countries. And to date, already these funds have invested some 90 million euros in those 5 countries. Again, Czech Republic leading among them. It also includes, for example, actually in its portfolio, one of the first Czech unicorns, so startups valued over 1 billion euros, so Rohlik, which you might have heard about as a story. Indeed. And now, given that the investment period of this fund of funds is done, we would like to launch a successor. So we're aiming for its launch by the end of this year, and with a similar strategy. So again, supporting mainly later stage venture capital and growth private equity. So sort of really on the business growth side, so scale ups and so on. And essentially, given that the first program has worked quite well, we don't really intend to change much, but we would like to certainly increase the size of it in order to be able to increase the impact. So while the first program was 97 million, for the second one, we'll probably be aiming for 150 or 200. So to be seen also what the possibilities are. We are currently talking to the individual investors in the first fund of funds to see exactly how the second one will look like. And we might even add some countries because it sort of makes sense for the Central European region. So this
thank you, Michal. So I mean, there is a lot more. I mean, there is InvestEU, which will definitely increase our capacity to support our financial intermediary. There is also more on the EIF side, but also on the EIB side. I also want to highlight, it's very important, the fact that we'll expand in the field of advisory, both on the EIB for our financial intermediaries, but also there is more financial, more support, advisory support that will be provided to our financial intermediaries on the EIF side. And I don't think we will have time to go through it, but this should be noted. And it's currently being elaborated. I guess it's both for the guarantee side, but also for the funds. So this is important if you want to know more, if you also want to know more about how to get access to the financing. It's quite different from the EIB side. For instance, you can just reach out anytime to our loan officers. On the EIF side, it's more under the form of calls, which is structured a bit differently. And then for the funds, I mean, you can reach out to the equity, to our equity teams. Maybe if you just want to say, like, very, very briefly how to reach out to you, and then we will leave the floor to Pavel.
Sure. I mean, I can start on the equity side. So actually, indeed, there are calls for expression of interest published on our website, which stipulate also how to contact us specifically for those calls. Now, we do accept investment proposals outside of the calls as well. And during our investment process, we can decide that it's relevant for a particular call. So then we would sort of redirect it. So if you go on our website, there is actually a form which you can complete with an equity investment proposal. So with an investment proposal for an equity fund or a debt fund. But you can also always, if you have existing contacts, you can obviously contact individually those people at the EIB, you know, and send those investment proposals to them. And that includes myself. So of course, if you have any further questions or would like to consult me on any proposal, investment proposal you might have for EIB, I'm happy to always talk to you. My contact details, I'm not sure how I can share them right now, but maybe we can send something.
You can also reach out to the Prague office and we'll
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, on the guarantee side, it's the same message. We will have a call for expression of interest published soon with regards to InvestEU, and for any question you can reach the contact details will be indeed shared after this meeting, and you can reach me, drop me a line, and myself or the other colleagues on the floor can provide you with the needed clarification.
On the EIB side, the transactions are more ad hoc and bilateral, so the best way is to approach us directly via phone or email, and we can start it from there.
Thank you. So now I very much welcome Pavel. He is joining us to discuss and to present the cooperation of EIB with National Development Bank, which is a very important partner for us. So thank you, Pavel. I will leave you the floor.
Thank you. Basically, the cooperation between the National Development Bank and EIF is mainly in two fields. One field is which has been described by Michal. That's basically the investment into the Central European Fund of Funds, where the total commitments are approximately 97 million euro, whereas the Czech commitment is 8.2 million euro. And as far as I know, it's more or less subscribed by you, or
it's fully committed. It's fully committed to the funds. Of course, the funds keep investing, so they keep calling the capital. But
yeah, so basically these funds are used. And then from my perspective, as the National Development Bank is, I would say, very much focused on SMEs and mid-caps, it's the COSME loan guarantee, which we have basically since 2003, and which is basically being used for the national funds, Národní zdroje 2015 to 2013, and we have during the last 7 years supported more than 12,000 SMEs, which have been guaranteed by the COSME counter guarantee in a total volume of 900 million euro. Also in 2020, we have joined the digitalization pilot introduced by EIF, the so-called SMART guarantee, which is aimed to support SMEs who are doing digitalization of their companies. The facilities can be assessed by the SMEs. The guarantee is up to 80%, and the eligible costs are the purchase of hardware, software, the training of staff, and other digitalization needs. These are the two main areas of cooperation between the National Development Bank and EIF. And maybe last but not least, it's the InvestEU, which we are discussing with our colleagues from the Ministry of Trade and Industry, and where basically we would like to strengthen the national funds from the InvestEU funds / counter guarantee from 2023 onwards, where we would use the InvestEU guarantee as a counter guarantee to the guarantees which we have under the Národní zdroje, the national funds. So this is in a nutshell what we do together with the EIF.
Thank you, Pavel. I think it's a very fruitful cooperation. As we know, we are also cooperating on the infrastructure side, yeah, I mean, discounted guarantees in particular, and the work on the fund is definitely something that has been successful and that is still very promising. Is there anything else that you would like to highlight in terms of perspective or?
Well, basically, we have a very, very fruitful cooperation with the EIB as such, where Daniel mentioned that we have signed the loan agreement in 2021 in the amount of 200 million euros, where we are working on projects which would be financed by this framework, and I think this is the cooperation which we have with you.
Yeah, thank you. So no, it's very important on our side to indeed be able to rely on to have strong cooperation with National Promotional Bank in each and every country. That enables us from Luxembourg to also access smaller counterparties and including municipalities. Now, I think there will not be, I mean, we will stop the interpretation most probably, but nevertheless, because we still have quite an audience, if someone wants to ask a question, we are really there to answer. So feel free to raise your hand and we will give you the microphone if there is any question. No? So I thank you a lot for your attention. We have been delighted to have you for this event. We hope that it was informative. I think it was really giving a very good overview of all the different sectors that the EIB is working on together with the Commission through the InvestEU program and also jointly with the National Promotional Bank. So I thank you a lot for that. And now we will close the event and we will move to the more festive part of the event because there will be the networking lunch on the other side. So we welcome you there and we look forward to being able to discuss with you a bit more informally. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.